Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Saturday Night with Brian and Jay.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, how are you guys doing today? I hope that your day has been absolutely amazing. It's been cold and snowy here in Michigan.
Super cold.
So, it's just winter finally hit, here in Michigan.
And hard, too. It's been every day. It's been snowing or cold.
Yeah, so. It's been crazy. But, hey, we're going to try to be as positive. We, of course, know what snow means, typically good snake breeding. The downside is this front came through when I had all my males and females separated out. So I haven't had breeding because of that, and I'm feeding. So we'll get our males and females back in by tomorrow. Sweet. And hopefully we'll start to see some copulation from all this low pressure craziness going on. So let me just tell you what's on my agenda today. And of course, you guys always are going to mold my agenda. So I want to do as many super chat questions as you want. So I appreciate you guys. Go ahead, drop them as you are. I see a few people have already
they're crushing already.
Already hit the super chats, so thank you so much, guys. In between those super chats, really three topics that are on my mind that I'll interweave if we have time, and we'll eventually catch up to them anyways. First one was going to definitely be talking about some of the animal legislation. Of course, today we dropped a vlog. Please watch that if you haven't, and that is on all the proposed reptile bans / laws that are being proposed right now. Probably the biggest onslaught that we've seen ever, really, and it's really backed up on the kind of, it's really an anti-pet movement that is using the pandemic mainly and invasiveness secondly to pass their agenda, which is to stop, shit. Like obviously New York is talking about banning the shipping of all animals, not just reptiles, but all animals. That'd be fish, that'd be birds, that'd be dogs, that'd be reptiles, that'd be everything. And we don't have an invasive issue, obviously, in Florida or in New York because of the cold. But they're kind of trying to push it on like the fact that, COVID came because of animals, and if we don't stop this, shipping and blah, blah, blah. So it's really shutting down. So, yeah, you can see we're scrolling through USARK right now, and all of the kind of alerts are right up there and all the things. I mean, really, I've never seen their front page so packed with action alerts.
Yeah, it's like the whole page. I mean, and long too.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, we've got New York. We've got Florida, obviously, is going to continue to be battling with the FWC. I know that the last Thursday was the South Carolina deadline for the comments for the Tegu ban. I don't know where we stand with that as far as in committee. But just to give you guys a kind of an update of like what happened here in Michigan is that, we had a proposed, pretty like crocodilians, venomous snakes, all kinds of stuff like that came proposed, was really going to affect a lot of reptile keeping in this state, and we were able to rally the troops, much like we're asking everyone to do with USARK right now, and get people to contact their local Congress people, senators, and what happens, you've got to remember, especially when a lot of these go through like the Agriculture Committee, and these types of smaller committees, typically 11 people on the committee. Most of their laws that are being proposed are like, we need to put a septic field over there on 23 Mile Road. And obviously they might get one person like, I don't like the idea of a septic field over there on 23 Mile Road. So if we get 500 people contacting them, it's a big deal to them, right? I mean, they're used to 1, 2, maybe 5 people contacting them about a proposed bill. And also we get 500, 1,000 people contacting, especially if you do it in a very kind way. It really changes the trajectory. And what you want to do, just so you guys understand, is you always want to kill proposed legislation in committee, right? You never want it to go to the floor for a vote. You never want that to happen. You don't want it to get out of committee. If you kill it in committee, it dies in committee. If it gets out of committee, there's a very good chance it could be passed into law. So we always want to do that. So anyways, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I don't want to get into the Debbie Downer mode here right off the rip. I was going to talk a little bit about, telling the full story of the scaleless ball python. You guys have been following me for any length of time, might remember the video on Snake Bites TV before the vlog, obviously, when we hatched the very first scaleless ball python. But you may not know the whole back history of it and where that whole thing went. So I'll try to discuss that a little bit in between super chats and all that type of stuff. And then lastly, this is just self-serving, to be totally honest with you, because I'm so excited about it, is that, we launched a coloring book which is more like a comic book, to be honest with you.
It's so cool, guys.
It's
You're gonna
really,
love it.
yeah, it's called Reptarium After Dark. It's basically what the animals do after we leave. You know, you can see here Perdita is singing Salt and Pepper on piano. I mean, there's laser tag in there. There's even like, you know, me vlogging.
It's so sick.
There's so much stuff. I mean, it's just packed with like really, really good. Like I said, it's more like a coloring comic book than anything. I mean, if we would have colored in the pages, it would have been a comic book, really. You know, I mean, it's not like this, you know, just generic coloring book. There's
a story too.
It's really, I mean, and thankfully some friends of ours surprised us with this. They had worked on it for a while and they crushed it and they knocked it out of the park, and they sent us some other shirts and some other designs, and now we're working with them on some other stuff that we're going to be launching here pretty soon. But please, you know, we'll put in the link in the description when this goes live on there, as well as I know that I think Potter had posted, if anyone wants to post a link, it's the reptarium.com. You can go and you can buy the coloring books there. They're $10. I mean, they're super cheap, and you can even get crayons with them if you want for free. So you can get them with or without crayons. So yeah, I mean, that was a little self-serving plug.
No, I mean, they need to know about it, man, because they're gonna want that.
No, it's
so cool.
It's like, you know, listen, I mean, you know, we launch a lot of stuff, and a lot of our stuff, I'd like to think everything we try to sell is at least cool.
Yeah, it gives you value. It's not just some piece of crap, you know.
But this is like next level cool.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
badass.
like a dream of mine cool. And this is, by the way, it says volume 1. I don't know if there'll be a volume 2. I have no idea. But these will eventually not be printed, and they will eventually be, you know, like the first edition of these guys. So hopefully, you know, I mean, it's not going to be like the first edition Spider-Man by any stretch, but certainly I think that this is, I mean, like I've been staring at them for
every day
for 7 or 8 days, and I'm still like obsessed about it. My daughter, you know, Jade, was in town last night, and I showed her to her.
Oh, what'd she think?
She was blown away. I mean, and again, you know, Jade doesn't get overly excited about a lot of the things that we do. She'll be like, "Oh, that's cool," but she like literally went page by page by page.
Like, no way!
Like, wow, this is super cool. So
yeah, I've never seen another zoo or aquarium or even any type of attraction place that had a thing like this. So it's pretty much Disney. That's it, right? You know, like that would be the only place I would see with something like that.
It's really cool, and it just inspires me to keep on stepping up our game.
Cool.
With that stuff. So that's it for those. So those are the 3 kind of things that are on my mind. But we'll jump into some super chats first. And again, you guys, like, you know, Saturday nights, this is how it works, man. You guys ask me questions. I'll sit here for 3 hours and answer your questions.
That's
if
right,
you guys
baby.
want. So you can keep on hitting me with the supers, and we'll go from there. And then when we, you know, in the lulls in between or whatever, I'll dive into one or all of those topics. Well, I guess we covered the coloring book.
Covered the coloring
book. But the other 2 topics, I'd like to tell a story about the scaleless for sure. Probably it'd be really cool to just see how that whole thing panned out and how crazy it was. And really there was a lot of ups and downs, like so many things in life. But yeah, let's hit a couple supers and then we'll move on.
You got it. Seth threw $20. Seth says, "Hey,
Seth,
Brian,
man.
I had a private tour a couple weeks back. My family and I went to Zoological Wildlife Foundation.
Oh yeah,
after.
I remember you guys. Yeah.
Hope to come again soon and hang out and hang. What does it say? It says Ojibwa. Ojibwa. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pull it up here, because maybe I'm saying it wrong. But
yeah. Well, and I actually had reached out. These guys came. They were super, super dope. And he was actually going off to college, and before he was going off to college, they came here, and then they were going down to Miami, and they had already been to ZWF a few other times. I reached out to my buddy Jacob. He was not there, or wasn't going to be available, unfortunately. But I'm sure that, you know, the experience down at ZWF is always made. Now, you haven't been, have you?
Never been, even seen it.
So we're heading down. The idea is to leave the 16th of March to head down to South Florida. Really all of Florida, not just South Florida, but we're going to spend quite a bit of time down in the South Side. And we'll definitely go and hook up with my buddy Mario and Jacob.
I'm gonna flip.
Yeah,
one of my favorite, like, people that I actually really, really want to meet, just because that's just crazy.
Yeah, no, the story behind that is really wild. For you guys that don't know, Mario, the owner of ZWF, literally they say, and there's even a New York time selling book called The Lizard King that says it in there that Mario was the character, or he was the influence that created the character Tony
Montana
in
Scarface.
So pretty interesting guy, and but he's a really great guy, real animal lover. He got a great place down there. So yeah, it was great. That tour was really fun. We had a great time here. I enjoyed. Not that I don't enjoy all our tours, but there's certain tours that are just more entertaining for me. So it was a really good time. So I do look forward to having you back.
Mac, our boy, he says, thank you
up,
for tackling these issues for the sake of the community and the next generation's opportunities to love and live alongside animals.
Thanks, Mac. I appreciate
So
it.
true.
And, it's obviously the thing about these legislations and the proposed laws are that even when they don't affect you in person, it's very important for us to step up and have a voice and try to help everyone, because what's that old saying, first they'll come for this and then they'll come for that. And,
I don't know it, but off the top of my head, but
yeah, it's
I know
one of those things like, first they came for my whatever, but it didn't bother me, and then they came for this.
Eventually it takes away everything.
It takes away everything, and so we have to stand together, and our brothers down in Florida and New York and South Carolina and Alabama and Oregon need our help. And we need to realize that we're not only helping them because we're a community, but also we're self-servingly helping them because ultimately they need to help us when it's our turn. So yeah, we'll fight the good fight, man. And I think that every time there's this kind of rise up, the thing that sucks is that there's this rise up of awareness. And then when the storm passes, it goes away, and people don't stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And
we need to.
And yeah, we need to keep on top of it, because, this is going to be something that's going to plague us for the next 20 years, and slowly they're just picking away at our ability to keep and be involved in reptiles. And it's a scary thing for us, so yeah, it's and again, for me, I don't have as many horses in the race as I used to, right? Because before I was very concerned about, like, let's say shipping reptiles, obviously BHB is still a big part of things, but now we're going in such a different direction. If they shut shipping down and we just could never ship a reptile again, we'd probably just move away from that part of our business, because we have other opportunities, but that's not the point, right? The point is let's save shipping for everybody, not just for us, not just self-serving for us, but we've got to be a community.
Matt Fruits through $5 just for love. Appreciate you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Wrapped Around Reptiles through $5. It says support USARK.
Yeah, man. Amen, man. I and we do have to do some kind of fundraiser.
Yeah, I agree.
Not exactly sure how to do that. Maybe it'll be something. I'll have to brainstorm this a little bit more. But we're hopeful that by September, life will be
normal-ish.
As normal as we can think. And right now, with the way things are progressing in America, it really does look like by midsummer, we should be well beyond the herd immunity vaccinated. And unless something throws a monkey wrench in that, I think that, by summer / midsummer, life is going to be feeling pretty normal. There might be some minor restrictions. My point is that although we'll probably at the Reptarium stay at limited numbers because we like the feel of like smaller groups, so whereas it used to be wide open, anyone could come, as many people as wanted to come in could come in. Now we sell our slots. We'll probably maintain that principle going forward. We may increase from 35 to 50 or something like that, but we're not going to go back to being 250 people in the place. But we are talking about September having a barbecue for our 3rd anniversary, where it would be wide open, like anyone could come, hang out, come in. Maybe we'll do some sort of a giveaway at that barbecue. Maybe we'll fly a couple people in, or something on that line, so we can do a benefit to raise funds for USARK. So I'll think about that more, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, because even something in the future too, where like, say if you, Kevin McCurley, and like 2 other bigger dudes came on and did a podcast, and we did the super chats for USARK or something like that could even be
that's
cool
actually a great idea too. You're right. We could probably get a few
heavy hitters,
some heavy hitters in here, and grow all, combine all of our social followings, and just all the proceeds would go to USARK. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a really good one. I'll try to work on that too.
Cody says, hey Brian and Jay, love the podcast. This love, however, is all for me. That's me, Jay.
Oh my gosh.
He's been a great friend to you, and I feel he is a kinded spirit.
Man, I tell you what.
Kindred spirit. That's even better, dude.
If you only knew the truth.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. I ain't nice at all, dude.
No, I tell you what, I can barely. Why do you think he's in a different room?
Dude, yeah. So the original idea, I was like, hey, come on, let me just sit in the corner. No one's going to see me in the camera.
No, I don't want to be your.
I don't know, dude.
I don't want to even smell you in my room. No,
fuck yeah, dude.
Jay's my brother, man. I
That's
love him to death, man.
Jacob says, hey guys, I'm from Oregon and had the opportunity to visit Brad's reptile facility recently. Yep. I met a beautiful Asian water monitor there and I'm in love.
Yeah, I actually, if it's the water monitor, that giant one, I've had the opportunity to have that crawling around on me as well. It's a giant one. I mean, like really big water monitor. And Brad's World is great. You know, I mean, it's a great place.
We just talked about that in the vlog.
And that's what I talked about in the vlog today. You know, I mean, he's been around since the Steve Irwin days and been doing it for probably 30 years, educational shows. And obviously it would tremendously hinder his ability to do his shows if the laws in Oregon that are being proposed pass. So it's just silly. I mean, that's when it gets me really ticked. You know what I mean? When you get into the point where it's like, holy cow, man, they're trying to take away educational shows. You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about like circus acts.
Where, these are people
like
that love animals
tortoises.
Trying to make other people love animals. Like, that's it.
I mean, you know, it's like almost everybody has that experience when they were a kid, when the animal guy came in and brought the snakes and the tortoises and the frogs and stuff. And to take that ability away is just, I mean, like, what possible reason could that, you know, like, who is like, yeah, this is bad. Getting kids to love animals, we don't want that to happen. Let's stop this right in its tracks. You know?
It's almost like these people only care about fluffy things because there's no way you can think that doesn't cause more harm to snakes. Because right now, most people that aren't into reptiles, if you say something about snakes, they're like, the only good snake's a dead snake.
Sure.
And that's an ecological harm too. You know what I mean? Like just as much as invasive animals, you know?
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
V-Dog says, can you be a Canadian and get involved? COVID came about because an infected animal was ingested, not because it was a pet. Incorrect and fear-based.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and yeah, you can, of course. You know, I mean, it does. You don't have to be in this country now. Will you make the same impact on a legislator if you're from another country? No, you won't, because they're really worrying about their constituencies.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that, number one, you can't donate to USARK, just like I would donate to a Canadian ARC if you guys had issues. I also think that you could write an email or a phone call.
It doesn't hurt.
Expressing concerns as a citizen of your country and saying, hey, listen, you know, we look up to the United States and we you know, we were fearful that laws that are being passed in the U.S. will maybe be passed in Canada because a lot of Canadian laws do follow U.S. laws as well, and vice versa. So yeah, no, just because you're not in the country doesn't mean you can't. And if you can't help with those ways, you know, certainly financially you can help trying to support USARK. So yeah, we're in this together, and you know, every little bit helps.
Boston Kissinger says, what's up? What's a good way to get a bearded dragon to eat veggies, not just crickets or hornworms?
Yeah, it's a really difficult thing, you know, and I hear that question a lot, you know, and to start off with, a smaller bearded dragon they are more carnivorous, right? So they do eat a lot more bugs. And then as they get older, they should eat more vegetables.
Yeah.
But they'll still eat some bugs. You know, they're not completely going to be. They're an omnivore. They're not a vegetarian. But one of the tricks you can do is you can kind of, like if they like superworms, for instance, you can kind of like mix the superworms in with their salad, and oftentimes as they're trying to eat the superworms, they're eating the salad almost accidentally. Yeah. The other thing to do is sometimes just really experiment with the different types of things that they may want. Right. Sometimes, you know, the bearded dragons don't like a particular veggie, you know, but if you get the right veggie, they're just ravenous with it.
Yeah.
So really, you know, don't pigeonhole yourself into, oh, I've got to feed them romaine lettuce and squash. You know what I mean? Try carrots, try
mustard greens, whatever.
Try broccoli, try yeah, exactly, mustard greens, you know, bok choy. I mean, you know, all kinds of different things.
And that should help.
Yeah, and that should help.
Arsenal Exotic says, Brian, I just sent you an email to sales@BHB. I hope you're well. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. And I will make sure that they forward me that email because, of course, Steph, Beth, and Lori,
I'll take care of that.
I'll take care of that particular email. I don't, and they're really great. I mean, just so you guys understand. I mean, obviously, you guys know that I have a lot of things on my plate, and I have a million, things juggling at all times. So my staff does a really tremendous job of trying to buffer me from as much as they can because they realize that there's only so many brain cells in my head that can possibly do it. So a lot of times, if you do send an email, just put like attention Brian. And almost all those emails get forwarded unless there's something stupid that they don't feel I should see or something like that. But not that I'm saying
no,
but you know what I mean. It's like if it's just irrelevant.
Like attention, Brian. What's a good setup for a ball python closure? Yeah, Beth can handle that.
Beth can handle that. Yeah. So, but so if you don't hear back from me or something like that, just send the same email in the subject line, attention, Brian, and they're really great about getting me those emails.
Melissa says, just please don't drink pee for a fundraiser. And honestly, I think the podcast idea was kind of good, but this sounds a lot more promising.
I think urine is let me just tell you something about urine, okay? Because if there's one thing I know is I know urine.
Yeah, dude.
Do you know that urine is excess? And poop is waste.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So drinking urine is supposedly good for you.
Yeah, because it's all those extra nutrition, vitamins, nutrients that you didn't get.
So next week
what we're saying is we just drink pee anyway, not for a fundraiser. So
every day I drink Emergency.
Yeah, which looks just like
pee.
Dude, I think of that because anytime it's in if I'm shooting and I see it, I'm like, I can't put that shot in there. People are going to be like, why is Brian drinking piss? There's piss bottles all over the basement.
I don't want to go back. I just go in that bottle and then drink it later.
Yeah,
No, I don't intend on drinking pee. But I would if I was in the middle of the desert, if I had to, yeah.
Fair. I would too. Michael says, I got a turtle fish cohab with an eastern map turtle and tiger barbs with an amazing plants and woodscapes.
Interesting. Yeah,
sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds great. And the tiger barbs are fast enough that they probably wouldn't get eaten. If you put goldfish in there, you probably would have more of just you just have a turtle tank at that point.
Yeah.
But it's tiger barbs are very fast. They get very big. Have you ever seen a big tiger barb? By the way,
no.
I mean they can get like 4 or 5 inches. I mean, yeah, you can if you want, you can Google that.
I don't even know what a tiger barb is. Actually,
oh, it's a beautiful fish. It's a really nice fish, and they can get really large.
Oh, I do know these ones. Okay,
yeah,
they get big.
Yeah, those guys can get like 4 or 5
like an
inches.
angelfish almost. Like
oh yeah, they get as big as an angelfish. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, most of the ones you see are like an inch long, but if you actually go to like an aquarium that has like a 2,000 gallon tank with tiger barbs in it,
wow,
they're
that's cool.
Giants.
I never knew that.
And they're pretty aggressive fish, unfortunately too. They nip fins really badly, so
of like other fish.
Yeah, of other fish. So you got to be careful what you put tiger barbs in with. But apparently, turtles would be a good option.
V Dog came back, says tomorrow you drop the vlog on Facebook. Maybe set up a fundraiser or ask people to send stars. You have a huge following on Facebook.
That's a good. That's a really good
idea.
And I think I might talk to Steph, who kind of runs the show over there, about the stars.
Yeah, that's
idea.
smart.
That might be a really good idea. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Thank you, V Dog. That's a really good idea.
Brad says Tyler Nolan said on one of his most recent videos, Netflix has been filming and may release a documentary on snakes, picking up from Tom Crutchfield's in Tiger King.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything or been filmed for it?
No, and I would not.
Don't need to be on that.
If you ever saw Tiger King, you might realize it might not be the best thing. But no, I've kind of been hearing whispers of this.
I never heard about this. So
yeah, I've been hearing whispers about this since before the Tiger King. As a matter of fact, the story is that the initial film was supposed to be on Tom Crutchfield.
Oh, I've heard
Tiger
that.
King.
Yeah.
And my understanding was that they kind of continued down that path as well. Okay, and Tyler may know more about this because Tyler's much more connected in that world than I am down there in South Florida. But I've heard several for the last few years. I've been hearing whispers of a Tiger King-esque documentary that will be on reptiles. And I would absolutely not want to have any involvement in that. As a matter of fact, just recently I was asked to be involved in a couple things that I turned down interview-wise and stuff like that because I felt the same thing. As a matter of fact, it's interesting, now that I think about it, and I had not even thought about it, but somebody maybe a month ago had said they were doing a documentary that was a similar ilk to Tiger King, and I'm wondering if this is the same
Get the
people.
hell out.
And they asked me if they could do an interview, and I just responded, no, I wasn't interested. And now that I think about it, I wonder if that was the same team, to be honest with you. But yeah, I just responded, I'm sorry, I just don't have time to help. Thank you anyways. Because listen, you're not going to look good in that. You're not gonna look good.
No matter even if everything you said was good, they'll twist it. It's all edited.
And you know, some people are so tied up in like wanting to be part of, you know, like getting in you know, the fame and the limelight that they're willing to sacrifice
the reputation.
Yeah, and I'm just not one of those people.
You're already there, baby. Seth says, "Shoot, my bad. I just meant to say come hang out again." Oh, that was the Hoibija.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen that word.
Come hang out again. Is that like come hang out again?
Yeah, again.
Okay, well that's awesome.
Thanks, man.
No, definitely can't wait till you come back, brother. I mean, like I said, you guys were great. Your whole family was awesome, and I appreciate you.
Oh, Scottish Rob returned from last week. He said, I talked last week about IBD. Turns out 2 are positive with Golden Gate virus of arena IBD. So we'll sadly have to call those 2. Heartbroken over it.
Well, I'm glad that it's only 2.
Yeah, man.
I think that's really cool that it's only 2 because it could have been much, much worse. So I know it sucks. It sucks to lose an animal like that. But in actuality, I'm very glad for you that it was only 2 animals that came back positive.
Best of a bad scenario, right?
It really is the best of a bad scenario, and just be very careful getting boas in particular in the future. And do a really good job of quarantining.
Smart. Shane Lee says, my ball python's humidity is 15% and he's not shedding right. What can I do?
Yeah.
Raise that sucker.
Yeah, you're way
I'm hoping you meant 50%. But
yeah, I mean, 15% is terrible.
That's like my skin gets dry.
Yeah. You really need to have that 55 to 60%. So that gives you an idea of like how far off you are if you're at 15%. And it's understandable because during the winter time, you know, if you're in a colder area like we are, especially like today when it's, you know, literally single digits or low teens and going to get down to single digits at night, that furnace is kicking on constantly. And even if you have a humidifier, it's not really meant to pump your humidity up to 50 or 60%. So you're going to have a tremendous amount of drying out, you know. So it's important to get that humidity up. You can do that a number of ways. You can reduce ventilation. You can spray down. You can have thicker substrate like coconut substrate. You know, and wet that down a little bit more so that you have higher humidity. You can do in, you know, larger water bowls. But yeah, 15% no snake is going to shed well.
Inked says, is there a way to pick your brain one day about starting a reptile house? Our zoo where I'm located does not have much of any reptiles, and I believe education in our hobby is needed. Thank you.
I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, you can send me an email and we can chat anytime. You know, there's a million questions to ask before. Yeah. And keep in mind, if you want to open up a reptile house / reptile zoo / whatever, it depends on where you're going to want to go with it and how good you're going to want to do. But just keep in mind that you're probably looking at, you know, several $100,000s of an investment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, to get it up and going.
Even if you're going to want to do something small, you're looking at a $200,000-$300,000 investment. And then if you want to do something like our size, you're, you know, looking at somewhere close to $1 million investment, you know, to do it the right way. So just keep that in mind. I mean, a lot of people think, man, I really want to open up a reptile zoo. They don't realize how much money it costs. I mean, if you're going to do it right, I mean, and then the problem is if you do it cheap and you do it for $100,000, it may not be successful because it's not very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to understand that. But I do think that reptile zoos that are done well can do well all over the country. Doesn't matter where you're at. Every city in the country could probably have a reptile zoo that would
easy
if you had
just like there's an aquarium in every state.
Right, exactly. And that's why some people like you know, even Quinn, one of our workers, you know, came to me yesterday and was like, "Did you see Snake Discovery? I just saw Snake Discovery's open up a zoo." Number one, it's old news because she's been working on it for a year or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was almost like, you know, maybe he was trying to get a little bit of, you know, like tea going on there. And I was like, you know, that doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't affect us at all.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, good for her. I hope it goes well. I mean, you know, she's 11 hours away from me, and
all that's going to happen.
Have some crossover, I'm sure, but at the same time, I hope her zoo goes well because it's good for her.
Yeah, and it's going to push, just like any of the people that maybe have come here a couple of times that are like, oh, there's one not too far away, I'm going to go to that one. Same thing. There's going to be people there that experience her zoo and are going to be like, oh, I heard there's one in Michigan. Let's go check it out.
Yeah,
so
they'll be back and forth.
It's all important.
Yeah, her success isn't going to make our success worse or vice versa. But yeah, no, I don't know.
Kidding.
It was just and I don't know that he was certain for it. Was just kind of like he threw it out there in a way that almost was like, oh my God, can you believe?
Yeah,
and I was like, number one, I already know about it, but number two,
come on,
but it's cool. She has a great following, and I'm sure she'll do a great job, and she's going to be great about educating people. So I wish her all the luck in the world.
Nats Jones says, oh my God, just tried ordering the coloring book, and the shipping to the UK is $100,000.
Yeah.
Wanted one so bad, but have to pass. Big love from the Isle of Wight.
All right, so let me just tell you something on this. The reason why the shipping is $100,000 is we don't expect anyone to ever buy them at $100,000. What it is you need to email us, and we'll tell you how to get it to you. Basically, with COVID right now, we were shipping merch over to the UK and over to Europe, and having massive issues. And what ended up happening was, someone would buy, like, let's say a shirt for $24, and then the shipping was like $20, which is okay. It's like $40-something. But then it was taking like 8 weeks to get to you. And then people were like pissed at us. Yeah. They're like, what the hell? I ordered this 6-8 weeks ago, and you're screwing me. And so we decided to just be like, all right, we're not going to export. So if you email us and you want to get a coloring book, Lori will get you a shipping, and I'm sure it's not more than $10 or $15. It's not $100,000. We just didn't want to have that autonomous on our website because we wanted to have that conversation like, hey, listen, if we're going to ship something to you, it could take 8 weeks, and it's not our fault. I mean, once we put it in the PO box,
it's not us.
It's out of our hands. We don't know what's going on with that. So yeah, I mean, obviously, although I was hoping one day there'd be like some sheik in Middle East would be like, oh, 100,000, okay. I come in one morning.
It's no problem.
I come in one morning and there's a coloring book and I got $100,010.
Oh man,
like, all right, man, yoo-hoo.
It's not impossible. Yeah, I finally got coloring book.
It's what I wanted my whole life.
Dude, hell yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. We got our fingers crossed. Lori shoots for the moon in that one. She didn't go 10,000. She went
100K. Like, hey, if you're dumb enough, thanks for the money, baby.
No, we don't expect. Obviously, nobody's ever going to pay that. But that's the reasoning behind that. So just reach out to us. Send us an email.
Shane says, I always run. He was the one with the ball python that wouldn't shed, right?
Yes, yeah.
He says, I always run a humidifier. I keep a wet towel over his tank. I have a big water bowl, and I even spray the walls, but not him. I live in Missouri, by the way.
Well, so if your tank is 15%, you've got to do better. You know what I mean? You've got to do better, period. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just you even if you're spraying and your towel and something is going on that's causing it to be 15%. Yeah. Because 15% is like I mean, like, people will have cracked noses.
No, that was serious. Dry skin.
Yeah, and really, I mean, like, anything under 25% in a household is like really
bloody
really
noses.
Dry. Yeah. So you're just going to have to somehow figure out. I think that again, the next step. You're in Missouri. Reptile Prime is actually in Sikeston, Missouri. Reach out to Reptile Prime. Get yourself and pack like 4 inches of Reptile Prime and do like 2 of the bottom inches wet. And the top 2 inches will be dry because of whatever, and that'll kick there's just all kinds of little things you can do. It sounds like you're doing everything right. You just have to figure out how to tweak it to make it work.
And it might even be the room you're in too. Like you might be in some type of room that maybe right next to the furnace or right now. Like try to maybe experiment a little bit around your house too.
Yeah, you might be you might be running a humidifier, but maybe there's a vent that's blowing right on
next
that
to
cage.
Yeah.
That's drying that out so bad.
Because that's crazy. I mean, like your house should be more than 15%.
Yeah, that's really wild. If you're doing all those things and it's still 15%, you definitely have to.
But good luck.
Yeah, and listen, keep trying. I mean, your goal is 50%. Make it 50%. Whatever you have to do to make 50%. That's really want to get it 55, 60% this time of year, but goal is at least 50%.
That's right. Buddha's Balls says,
Balls. That's actually a good name.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Hey, Brian, love the vlog and Saturday Snake Talk. Thank you for all the reptile advocation and keeping regulations that we need to squash on the forefront. Hope to get out to the Reptarium in the spring. VIP podcast ?
Oh my gosh, yeah, please. I mean, we were just talking about. First off, thank you for all your support. We were just talking about. I think that we could launch the VIP experience as early as 2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
I think
we're pretty close to done. We literally have they don't know because they haven't seen it on the vlog yet, but we literally have what? I mean, we got a little bit of trim to do, a little bit of flooring.
Yep, because we're waiting for the flooring to move the wall.
Accent
the New Caledonian room. Then we've got the couch. I think the couches come this week. I think the arcade game should be in the next 2 weeks by very. Not that would have anything to do with the VIP experience.
No, yes, it does, dude.
We got the popcorn machine already.
The P in VIP stands for Pac-Man.
Yeah. But no, I think we're literally. I think that certainly we won't be ready next Saturday because we're actually moving a wall next Saturday to expand the New Caledonia room just a little bit. I'm thinking that if we work hard that next week, we can wrap up everything, and possibly 2 weeks from today, we could have the first VIP experience. Yeah. And let me just back up. This is what the VIP experience is going to, I think I've said it before, but let me just really run it down. I think I'm going to charge $300. Can bring up to 6 people. It could be one person. It could be 6 people. If it's 6 people, obviously it's a lot cheaper per person, right? But you can show up about 4 o'clock. About 4 o'clock, an hour before. That's when we open up the Reptarium. You can spend like a half an hour at the Reptarium, looking around, stuff like that. Maybe like 4:30, we come downstairs and we spend, like 20, 25 minutes before the podcast, just hanging out, shooting the crap, getting to know each other, stuff like that. At that point, obviously, I do the podcast. Jay does the podcast. You can hang on down there. There's 2 TVs that you can watch the podcast live right here. Like I had mentioned, we'll get pizza. We'll have some beverages, not alcoholic beverages, but beverages. Popcorn, like we had talked about. Hang out, just have a good time. Do whatever, And then at 7 o'clock-ish is when we wrap up the podcast. We come out. We can hang out again if you want. Talk questions about the podcast. Ask questions about whatever you want to do. And at some point between 7 and 8 o'clock, you go back upstairs and you spend till 9 o'clock in the Reptarium. So it's really like a 5-hour event,
which is huge. I mean, like for a night out, like if you and your girl watch the vlog or something like that, or you and your boyfriend watch the vlog, what a cool night out. You know what I'm saying?
And a group of 6 people can pitch in, and it's relatively cheap. And the only reason I want to charge anything is that it costs us a lot to do it. It costs us a lot to make the room. We
made this room for you guys.
But it's it'll take a while to even pay back the investment at $300 a clip. Got TVs alone. With
the TVs alone, we got grand.
Yeah, but I think it's just again, anyone that knows me knows I'm all about experiences. With the Reptarium experiences, with the expansion experiences, and I just think this is another option to do a really cool Reptarium experience that isn't a tour. Because a tour is completely different, right? It's $300 an hour for a tour with Jay the Entertainer. It's $500 an hour with a tour with me. It's $300 and something for a birthday party. This is $300 for a 5-hour event. Yeah. But of course, a couple of those hours you're sitting in a green room watching the podcast like you could at home watching the podcast. So we can't expect that to be that much of value, even though we'll be in the other room right away from us. But I think it's a great value, and I think it's something that we can at least just keep on adding to the repertoire of experiences.
Scottish Rob said, "Thank you, Brian and Jay. I will try to use this experience to help others as a mod on Reptile Keepers for Brian Barczyk page. Best silver lining I can come up with." That was for the IBD.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely.
That.
So like I said, 2 things, and I talked to you about this last week, but I'll tell you again. A quarantine, like we talked about earlier, and no mites, no vectors. You take those 2 things into account. And, listen, quarantine doesn't necessarily have to be in the next room. It can be in an area that just is, okay, when I get done washing this rack and clean this rack, I disinfect everything. I disinfect my scraper. I disinfect my hands. I disinfect the bowls. I disinfect everything. Then I move on to the next non-quarantine rack. And so really, you're not going to, it's pretty hard to pass a pathogen, even from a rack that's 5 feet away, if you don't have mites, and you don't, because really most, if not all, pathogens and reptiles are not airborne, right? So they're always contact. So if you don't have the ability to have a separate room for quarantine, you don't necessarily need that, but you do need a quarantine protocol. And then if you don't have mites or any other vectors for passing, you won't pass pathogens.
Sweet. Our girl Let Roses Burn says VIP experience is going on my bucket list for sure.
All right. Yeah,
gotta come out.
Yeah, you gotta come out.
And we'll make sure little Brian will go out there with you.
Yeah, little Brian will hang out with you. Little Brian will hang out with you out in the room. That'd be dope, man. It'll be good stuff. I think again, it's just one of those things that I would do if
Joe Rogan's did it, we would do it. You know that.
Joe Rogan's or Theo Von did it, or whoever.
We would do that. Experience.
Kreischer, whatever. Not that I'm any of those guys. Obviously I'm.
But
not
to
Joe
some people, you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
That's good for super chats right now. You want to talk about some scaleless balls?
Yeah. So obviously, if you guys have any other questions, just hit me up in the super chats. We'll go ahead and start getting back to that. So we're gonna. I'll go back to the scaleless ball python story and the onslaught of that. So basically what happened was I was importing a lot of ball pythons out of West Africa, as you guys all know that happened, over the years. And so we used to buy all kinds of stuff. Now we're back into the internet days, now we can get emails with pictures and stuff like that, which is dope. And I had a shipment coming from Accra, Ghana, not from NOAA, but from another source. And a guy named Jimmy Akwanda. And Jimmy Akwanda.
I like that. I just edited this vlog just before, so I know all about this now.
Yeah. So, I can't recall all the animals I had, but it's always was a sizable shipment. You know what I mean? There was, probably cinnies and pastels and ghosts and, all that other stuff that came out pretty regularly back then, but was all pretty valuable.
Yeah.
Cinnies were still probably $1,500, $2,000. Ghosts were probably still $2,500, something like that. So I had a sizable shipment, probably, 80, 100 grand, something on that lines, coming. And the day before, Jimmy said, I have this one ball python that just hatched that looks very different, in the head. It looks like it's missing scales. And I'm thinking maybe it rubbed its scales off or something like that. He sends me a picture, and it's just missing some scales on its head, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's interesting. And I go, what do you want for it? And I don't know that I've ever told this story. If I have, it would have been very rare for me to have said it in the past publicly. So I said, what do you want for it? And he's like, I don't know. What would you give me? And I go, you know what? I don't even want it. Because I seriously didn't even want it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just like, I'll give you $100, man. And he was like, okay, I'll send it. So I gave him $100. It came in. It was a boy. Raised it up again. When it came in, I didn't think at all scaleless ball python. I didn't think anything. I just thought, okay, it lost a couple scales on its head. It's a little bit unique. Whatever. It wasn't until I bred it 2 years ago, 2 years later, and I literally bred it to one female. Just one female.
Whatever.
I was just like, hey, let's see what happens. And to my surprise, half the babies came out scaleless heads.
You're like, oh no, this is a mutation.
And I'm like, wait a second, this is inherent.
Now, was there any other scaleless animals out at the time? Like at all?
Yeah, there was scaleless rat snakes at the time.
So you knew that was possible.
Right. It was a recessive mutation with scaleless. So with the rat snakes, and they had no visual hats whatsoever. Right. There was no missing scales on hats. So there was nothing really that preference like, oh my God, I can see what's happening here. But what was interesting was from the day that clutch hatched, I mean, literally the day that clutch hatched, I was telling people that the super was going to be scaleless.
Yeah.
Every single person that came to the Reptarium, not the Reptarium, but BHB, I would say, this one, when I breed these together, they're going to be a scaleless ball python.
And they're like, get the hell out of here.
No one believed me. No one was. I
actually heard Kevin McCurley say when we were at Nerd that he didn't believe you. He's like, he thought you were full of shit. Mm-hmm. I was like, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think most people did, and rightfully so. I mean, I totally understand why they would think, going from this really macro amount of scales missing to a completely scaleless snake is a leap of faith, right?
Yeah.
And but for some reason I was really convinced about it. Like I said, to the point where every single person that came to my place, I told this to, and then finally, 2 years later, I got a female up to size. She had 4 eggs, and they were in the incubator, and for some reason, Mike Wilbanks from Constrictors Unlimited, now Wilbanks Reptiles, who we visited in Oklahoma recently and going to his barbecue in July, he was on this kick where he's like, scaleless ball python. Anyone that can find me a scaleless ball python, I'll pay $100,000 to. That's what he said.
Oh my God.
That's what he said. Anyone that can find me a scaleless ball python, I'll pay $100,000 to. And so he found out I had eggs, and he called me up and he was like, hey, I think the scaleless ball python is like the next big, huge thing. Now, you got to remember, we didn't realize there was going to be some health issues with them and all this stuff. We were just thinking like a scaleless. Now, by this time, there was already scaleless corn snakes. There were scaleless rat snakes.
Right.
And there had been a couple other scaleless animals that were doing well. I mean, thriving in captivity. So there was no reason to believe that scaleless ball pythons would somehow not be, as thrive as viable as other stuff. So anyway, so he said, hey, listen, if you produce something, give me the first crack at it. And what I told him is, I said, well, we'll see what happens. I'll let you know. And I said, but I don't think I'll sell a scaleless, but I might sell some scaleless heads. Now, I did that year also breed the scaleless head to some normals and a couple other mutations.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to produce more scaleless heads too. As a matter of fact, maybe at this point I'd already produced a couple scaleless heads. And he was like, listen, I really want to get the first crack at whatever you sell. I said, all right, cool. And me and, Mike and I had done business. He bought one of my first pinstripe ball pythons, the first 4 or 5 people that bought a pinstripe ball python for me. So we had some history, and I was like, yeah, no problem. We can work together. So, so 57 days go by, and I make this thing. Again, I didn't have a vlog at the time, but I was doing snake bites, and I was like doing a lot on Facebook at the time. It was pre-Instagram, so there was no Instagram. And of course, I was doing a lot on Twitter at the time too. So I did this, which was a little bit ahead of its time, to be honest with you, because this is quite a few years ago. I was like, I'm going to live tweet cutting these.
Dude, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, you did egg cutting on camera before it was cool.
Yeah, way before. Before it was like way before anyone was doing it. And so I was like, I'm going to film it. I'm going to live tweet each and every situation. I'm doing it at 1:00 p.m. 1:00 in the afternoon. And so sure enough, like I'm filming leaving the, because my incubator's at my house, right?
Yeah.
So I film like leaving the shop. I tweet, hey, leaving the shop, heading it. And I tell you what, until the night before this happened, the cutting, I was 1,000% convinced that I was going to get a scaleless ball python. The night before this happened, when I had already made all the announcements about how I was cutting it and all this other stuff, I was 1,000% convinced I was not going to produce a scaleless ball python.
Isn't it crazy how it happens when the pressure's on, right?
All of a sudden, I was thinking, like, why would I think
this makes zero sense?
Like, why would I think this snake that had just a couple missing scales would have a super that would be all scaleless? This is the most asinine thing in the world. And I just spent 2 years telling every person I know that this is going to happen. Now I'm going to look like a fool, you know? And I was really convinced that I was going to look like a fool when this happened. So again, I tweet, leaving the shop. I tweet, just pulled up to my house, and then I film and I put it on Facebook. And then I tweet, in the incubator, egg 1, filming it, cut the egg 1, nothing.
No.
It's like, but I look and I'm like, man, these scales look small. Is there a chance the super is like a micro scale, Like, did it change the scalation?
Yeah.
I can't tell, but it's not whatever. So no go. I tweet it, cut egg 1, normal ball python, ready for egg 2, cut egg 2, I film it, normal ball python. I tweet normal ball python egg 2. I Facebook.
This is crazy that you were doing this.
I do it. I mean, so every egg is taking like 10 minutes, right?
Because you got to
post.
And
here I am. My anticipation is like, oh my gosh. Now by egg 2, I'm like, there is 0 chance I'm going to produce a scaleless ball python. 0 chance, And I cut egg 3, cut. Look at it, a fucking scaleless.
You're
ball
like, no.
python. I mean, we jumped up, we screamed, we yelled, we went crazy. I post, there's a scaleless ball python. I posted a picture of it in the egg. I posted it on Twitter. I posted it on Instagram.
Dude,
of course,
people were probably flipping out, huh?
Yeah. And so literally, then I cut the last egg, another scaleless ball python in the last egg. So there was 2 scaleless ball pythons. And so literally, by time I remember this. It's like I got out of the incubator room and I went into my backyard on our patio, because I still had the patio at the time.
Yeah.
And we sat down, and I'll never forget this, because I'm not like a soda drinker. I'd never really been much of a soda drinker.
Yeah, me neither.
I cracked a Dr. Pepper. I'll never forget
and that's
this.
A good soda too for victory.
I cracked this Dr. Pepper, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I just got this. So literally, I spend like 15 minutes, like just, calming myself down out of this, manic state of like, whatever. I can't believe this worked out. And so we get in the car, we drive back. I mean, I'm not 5 minutes down the road. First off, my Twitter is blowing up. My Facebook is blowing up.
Dude.
I'm getting text messages. And sure enough, Mike Wilbanks calls me. And Mike is like, bam. And he's like, Brian,
really? Wilbanks was the one that called you? Really?
He called me. He goes, I heard about the scaleless ball python. We need to talk. What are we going to do, man? I want to get on this, blah, blah. And he goes, listen, this is the deal. How many, he goes, what are you going to sell a scaleless head for? And I go, I think I'm going to offer him because I think, he wants 50. He said he'd pay $100,000 for a scaleless.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to sell him for $50,000. And he's like, how many are you going to sell? And I said, I think I only want to sell 4 this year. And he goes, how about if I buy all 4? Will you not sell any other than to me? He goes, if I buy all 4 for $200,000, will you not sell any other scaleless to anyone else? Will you make a guarantee to me that I won't sell? And I said, done, deal.
Yeah, 100%.
So literally, I left my Dr. Pepper on my patio, and within 20 minutes, I had a $200,000 sale from Mike Wilbanks.
Isn't that crazy too, dude?
Yeah.
Like, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a life-changing thing, even though, like, your business is already pretty, good at that point.
Well, at that point, to be totally honest with you, I'm not going to lie to you. That wasn't the good times of BHB.
There you go.
That was like towards the end times. I don't think that I would have survived. Like, so I shouldn't say that. We had already went through the worst times of BHB, where I almost lost my business because business was so bad. And we're kind of just slowly building up. And then that project, along with the Sunset project, gave me enough to kind of get back on my feet. And ultimately, when I downsized and moved to this building, to be in a position where I was like, okay, to start the new venture in life, which ultimately is where I wanted to come where I am now, right? But if it wasn't for the Scaleless Head and the Sunset project, I wouldn't have been able to probably had the financial oomph to do the things that I did, by making the move and doing all the things that I did. So
cool, man.
And then of course, we didn't know, even after the Scaleless Head or Scaleless hatched out, we still didn't realize they were not an extremely viable animal, right? It was eating and growing but shedding rapidly, and that was the first kind of indication that something was maybe different about them, is that they would shed 3 times faster than a normal ball python.
Yeah, it's like almost you put them down and they shed again.
Yeah, it was like they would shed. You'd feed them one or two meals and they would go back into shed. So but we didn't know that at the time. And Mike, by the way, Mike Wilbanks told me that he made over $1 million on the $200,000 investment.
Whoa!
So he did not get hurt at all.
Yeah.
The downside was there were people that got hurt later on.
Once all those animals grew up, right?
But the thing that was funny is I think there was maybe 1 or 2 people that did buy from me for like $20,000 that by time they got it. But there was only 1 or 2 people that got hurt that I felt bad about. Most of the people that got hurt bought from Mike, because Mike was really selling a lot more than I was, because what was happening was everyone was undercutting my price to sell the animals, and I was staying strong on my price. But what was weird is there was a couple people, including Sean Bradley, who went on a vendetta for years trying to bash my name, who used to be a good friend of mine, and I had never done anything. And his big precipice was that the Scaleless project, he got screwed on, but he bought him from Mike Wilbanks.
Yeah, it's like I had nothing.
So he didn't buy him from me, So he was bitching about how I cost him $50,000 when
What, just because I'm alive and I made, what I mean?
Like I didn't have anything to do with it. You spent $50,000 with Mike Wilbanks and the market went down. It's like when you buy stocks and they go down, you don't call up Mr. Dow Jones and say, you bastard, you ruined my life. It's a risk you take. I mean, you're taking the risk, but for at least my clientele base, I can remember one person that I felt pretty bad about, someone that spent a lot of money and they obviously, but even with that person, if he would have, and he may have, I don't know, would have followed the project, he would have made his $20,000 back.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have made $200,000 back, but he would have made his $20,000 back. But I did feel bad about him. And I can't remember if anyone else, I think almost everyone else that I sold to, did pretty well. I mean, not only made their money back, but made a pretty good profit margin. Because by the time the price really started coming down, I was already backing away from selling them. Yeah. Because I already, at that point, started to have inclinations that maybe the project was not as viable as I thought. And I didn't want to be involved in selling animals to people that I knew weren't viable. Whereas, some of the other guys were forging forward, trying to make as much money as they could by selling them, which is, what they had to do.
Each their own, yeah.
But so that's the scaleless, thing in a nutshell. And we still do have, I have 2 pair of scaleless heads. And you know, I'm breeding them this year. I didn't breed them last year. I didn't try to produce last year. I'm breeding them this year, and if I produce a scaleless, I'm not going to sell them. You know, there's just 2 females that, you know, I'd be lucky to produce 1 or 2 scaleless this year if I did. I would just like to maybe have one and play with it for a while, see if it, you know, because I know like Jason out at Mixed Morphology, he's got one that's viable.
The dude that was in Texas,
Chase Baker, had a big like 1,500 grammer.
Yeah, very pretty one. And then
looked in great shape.
I think Kevin had a couple.
Kevin's, I think,
right?
didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that he had problems with this.
It's just a hard one.
They're a tough one. You know, but I would like to maybe play around with them just for personal things. You know, now that you know, I'm not looking at the financial side of it.
Yeah. It might be also kind of interesting to, like, as an educational tool too.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to show people. You know, just like the scaleless Texas and stuff.
Yeah.
You want to hit a couple supers?
Yeah, let's hit some supers, and if anyone else has any other questions, hit me up.
Alex says, speaking of Reptile Prime, do you have any plans of making a chunk type substrate like Cocoa Blocks or Reptichip? I love using Prime for my sulcata.
You know, we have thought about it. It's so the biggest. So let me just explain the difference between Reptichip and the blocks in Reptile Prime, and how it becomes a very different model. And I understand that it's not for everybody. You know, it's, you know, some people like it, some people love it, some people don't like it. But what we do is the blocks. So let me just explain what a coconut is. Okay, a coconut, the outer part of a coconut, the husk part of the coconut, is comprised of 3 different things. Right? It's comprised of the fiber, which is basically, you know, what Reptile Prime is, the fiber, and then in between that fiber there is the pith, right, which is like more granular. Okay, and then lastly there's dust, and the dust is what you don't really want with the reptiles, right? You don't want the dust. You want the fuzziness or the chunkiness, but the problem is you can't have the chunkiness without the dust being in the chunks, right?
Got it.
So ultimately, if you took, let's say you took a bucket of Reptile Prime, and you took a bucket of any of the other reptile chunks, and you added the exact same amount of water, like you added, you know, a cup full of water or whatever that measurement needs to be. Reptile Prime would be completely dry to the touch, and the other one would be like eating cereal because it doesn't absorb the water.
Yeah.
That was the premise behind Reptile Prime. Take the dust out, make it more absorbent. Now, you do have to learn how to use it a little bit differently, because you can actually soak down Reptile Prime a lot more than you can the other, because the other ones has all 3. All of the other coconuts do not separate any of the 3 components of husk out, right? None of them. They all have all 3 components in every piece of it, whether it's fibrous or a block, doesn't matter, because if it's fibrous, it's just ground to be fibrous, but it still has the chunk, the pith, and the dust in it, right? And the reason that, so the company that we work with this has the patent to remove the dust, right? So other companies can't even do it because they'd be breaking the patent, right? That's why we're you know, unique in that sense. So do we want to produce a more chunky product? It would be great. Can we do it? Probably not. We could do it, but it wouldn't be dust free.
Yeah.
And doesn't say that we shouldn't do it, because maybe we will. But there's a couple, so I have a lot going on, as you guys might know, right? And I have a couple ideas that would fit under the Reptile Prime brand that would be great. And maybe a chunkier substrate would be good too. But I don't know if I'm going forward with those or not. I just don't know. I just don't know. Do I want, is the juice worth the squeeze, as Jay would always say? And there's so much stuff going on right now. Do I want to get involved in that? And I have, I'm involved in some other product stuff right now that's going to be launching pretty soon. So I don't know. I know that was not a definitive, and it was a long-winded answer to a relatively simple question.
You a politician?
Yeah. But but there's no. The one thing I've said is that, you know, from the moment we launched Reptile Prime, is I was never saying it was better than Reptile Chip. I was never saying it was better than any of the other coconut beddings out there. I just say it's different.
Yeah,
it's different. What you want. We like it. We've learned to use it very well. We use it in our ball pythons. We use it in all of our enclosures at the Reptarium. But we know how to use it well, and it goes very, very well. But I know a lot of my ball python friends say they don't like it, and that's fine. That's fine.
Nate Morris says $300. That's a steal. I'll even help clean poop. When will this all start? And pretty much like we said, maybe in 2 weeks or less.
I think it's possible that 2 weeks from now could happen. If not 2 weeks, 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah, 3 weeks is a definite. 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks is a possibility.
We'll do our best.
Squeeze it.
I think so.
I think we could. I think the biggest problem with the unknown we don't know is that we would need to be switching over to a new software, so that the TVs can play
what we're watching, the sound and all.
Well, what it is that the TVs can be playing the same feed as YouTube.
Right.
Because we wouldn't want them seeing this screen because they don't need to see all the.
No, of course not.
But they would have to, in order to have an output, we need to be switching over. And literally in the room that Jay is in right now, we have our new hardware and system. It's a very complicated system, and we're still not 100%.
And we don't want to fuck anything up that we can't.
If you guys remember, if you've been around for any length of time, we went through a period of time where we were testing out a new hardware for the podcast that would allow us to bring in so a lot of podcasts right now use like StreamYard or some OBS, which is all fine, but the quality is just not very good, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not watching a high quality podcast with that. So there's something that's called a TriCaster that is really high end podcasting software / hardware that like Joe Rogan's and even television studios use. So we have a TriCaster sitting in the control room right now. But it's not like when we worked on the TriCaster several months ago, we literally missed a handful of podcasts.
Yeah, it was very
because we
scratchy.
couldn't get it to work. We could it would work one time, then wouldn't work, and so we're hoping that we have it figured out this time and we can get that up and going, because that's going to be the last kind of thing that will make that the two TVs
possible.
Right. So hopefully 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think we're pretty solid for.
Michael says, love the videos. Much love from Richmond, Virginia. Have you ever been? Can't wait to visit the Reptarium.
Yeah, I used to go to Richmond. I used to go to Richmond every year, actually. There was a reptile show in Richmond, Virginia. Loved it out there. The only thing I didn't like about Richmond, Virginia was crossing the Chesapeake Bay.
I always laugh, Brian, because every time we go on a trip, somehow, because I know you hate bridges and waterways and stuff. But somehow you're always driving when we go over the bridge. Like, I'll drive for 5 hours and then like, all right, cool, you want to switch? And then it's here's the bridge. I'm like, damn, dude, it feels so bad.
No, and that's a long bridge, man.
Oh yeah,
it goes like
big
up,
one. Up and down, right?
Up and down, under, and then up and over and under. It's like, whoever designed that is a
jerk,
sadistic.
Yeah.
It's a sadist.
2x2 Reptile says he's throwing the $5 for Lucky Food because angry snakes need love too. Love you guys. Always happy to catch you live.
I love that, man. And and I was thinking about Lucky, of course, the Tiger Amazon Tree Boa.
I love him.
I need to somehow breed him because it's a mutation.
I got an idea. I have maybe tomorrow, if you want, I have a Amazon Tree Boa.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's male or female.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it in and you can
bring
sex
it in.
And
let's sex
do
it up. If it's a female,
if
it's a female, we should breed it.
Yeah.
And I just don't have a female, and I'd love to get. I really want to get back into Amazon Tree Boas.
They're so sick, dude.
I mean, there's so many cool colors, and gosh, when I used to breed them, they were so amazing, and it's just been a number of years since I've gotten out of doing it. And
now they give live birth, right?
Live birth, yeah.
Damn, that must be crazy to see.
It's super cool.
Now, when the babies come out, are they like super lanky and like?
Yeah, they're super. I mean,
all over the place?
It looks like they couldn't eat a pinky. It looks.
That's
like
what I'm thinking.
Their neck is so thin, but they crush pinkies. They crush them. And
crazy.
No problem at all. And in the past, I've had very good success with baby Amazon Tree Boas eating too. I mean, probably 99% of the babies would eat on their own pretty quickly, with a few tricks sometimes here and there. But I'd like to get back into the Amazon Tree Boas more. But then again, it's so hard to say. There's a lot of things I want to do, and I don't know.
But I think something like that, where it's like one project, or like you don't have to go fully into tree boas, but you just do a couple passion things,
Yeah, no, I think at least a couple pair, but I me, I'd like to get like 20.
I know you, dude. I know you're like, I want the red one, the blue one, the green one, the purple one.
Can I get that pink and purple one?
Yeah, come on, man. Scottish Rob says, he was in quarantine for 100 days. Male was purchased as a breeder male. Seen Bulletproof, and I paired him up. 2 months later, he started showing the neuro issues, and that female is the other positive.
Well, there you go. At least, well, that's, again,
best of the worst.
That's the best of the worst. The fact that you literally have two animals, one of them being the vector from the beginning, patient zero. That's pretty amazing. I mean, you really got lucky. You got really lucky, and it does suck, and that's the problem with boas is that you can, like you said, you had it for 100 days. It seemed fine. Boas can go years without being
symptomatic, right?
Yeah, completely asymptomatic. So it's almost like if you bring in a boa and you have a decent boa collection, you should get it treated, or not treated, but you should get the test for IBD.
So be proactive with it.
Yeah, be proactive. I mean, every boa you get in, if you have a boa collection that you don't want to die, you should probably treat. And this goes back to what I've said this before. I think that maybe an industry norm eventually should be when you're buying a baby boa, it should come with IBD paperwork.
Yeah, you've talked about that.
And when you're buying a baby ball python, it should come with a NITO test. I think if those two things happen, we would eradicate IBD and NITO within a pretty short period of time, because if people only bought animals that were proven negative for NITO or IBD with boas, within a generation or two, there would be no IBD and there would be no NITO. It would be completely eradicated. I guess that would be considered contact tracing, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
If we all know a little bit about viruses lately.
Yeah, it's funny how before you would have to explain a lot more about that whole process. Now you're just like, you know what they're doing to us? Yeah, we're going to do it to ball pot phones.
Do that to ball pot phones. Get tested,
But Buddha's balls came back and he says, "Hey, Brian, sounds like an amazing time. Definitely looking forward to booking it. Glad it's awesome. A minimum of 6 because we are a family of 6. By the way, love those snowstorms. Getting them here in Maine lately, and my ball pythons males are rocking it."
Amen, man. I've been preaching that stuff for so many years. I'm glad that people are starting to listen to me, So it's funny, like I've mentioned, I've seen a lot more stuff on Instagram and YouTube of ball python guys talking about the breeding with the snowstorms.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's cool because I've been pushing that agenda for years, and I just don't think anyone ever paid attention to what I was saying. And I think this year it finally caught on.
It really did, because I noticed it too. I have never heard anyone else say it before, and now I feel like everyone is.
I've been preaching it for years, and like I had mentioned on last podcast, I was keeping data on barometric pressure for a number of years. And it's definitely a proven fact. I mean, barometric pressure drops cause copulation, cause egg laying, cause live birth, all that type of stuff.
Now, you said before that the Scaleless project, you had 4 eggs?
Yes.
And similarly with the pied, you had 4 eggs, right?
Right, but I only produced one. The last egg of the pied was a pied, whereas there was 2. The last 2 of
were scaleless. I'm just wondering, it
might have been number 2 and number 4 though. I can't remember the actual the
order.
Number. There was 2 of them, and I thought it was the 3rd and 4th egg was scaleless. I thought the first 2 were normal. I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. But if someone has seen that video, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
It's just interesting to see, it might just be coincidence that you had 2 4 clutches with pretty important animals.
Well, I think that was both because they were both 18-month females that were smaller, and I think the ball pythons that are 18 months don't typically have big clutches. So
that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, cool. Saturnine says, "Glad I'm able to catch a live. I love your vlogs and podcasts. It's amazing. There's so much inspiration in one person."
You're so sweet. Listen, I
does a lot of PCP.
PCP. Wow, I wish I could. Speaking of PCP, or not PCP, remember when Miguel said he was doing, what was he going to do?
Oh, ketamine.
Ketamine to try to help with mental health.
Don't do that.
I wonder if he ever did it.
Probably not.
It was like a mental health thing that supposedly was supposed to help you with.
And listen, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but definitely do more research before.
Yeah, I'm not doing ketamine. But as far as inspiration, I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, probably more than you understand, to be honest with you, to inspire people to be more than what they think they can be. And I think the reason for that is that, I was beaten down most of my life, saying that I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't this, I wasn't that. I'd never amount to anything. And so, I always want to inspire other people to understand that that's bullshit, and that anyone can achieve anything if they just are willing to sacrifice, and and you know, even with my mental health, with anxiety and stuff like that, I'm trying to inspire people. I've got to be careful with that a little bit. And I talked to my therapist about it a little bit, is that I'm so focused on trying to help others with anxiety that I have to remember that I'm still not healed.
And we've talked about that, me and you, before too.
Yeah. And you know, I'm healing. I have some really good days, and I don't have really bad days anymore. After having months and months and months of bad days, but I have not as good days, right? So now I have good days and not as good days, and I think that's going to eventually, hopefully, that'll lead to almost no good days, almost no good, not good days, almost all good days, and I think it will. But there's this part of me that wants to inspire people to follow their dreams, to get over their mental health, to think of life as a adventure and an opportunity. And I don't always live it as much as I preach it. And I have to learn to live it a little bit more than just preach it. Yeah. But trying to inspire people means a lot to me, a lot more than you probably understand it does. And if I leave this world with that in my cap, then I think I did all.
And you know what's cool? You already have. Isn't that nice? You know what I mean? Like if you that's the crazy part. Like if you were to disappear right now, you already succeeded at that thing that if you had that one thing that I could just leave and inspire another generation, you did it. And that's cool.
I appreciate it. Hopefully we can just inspire more. That's my next step, you know, and I got, you know,
never quit, baby.
My aspirations are much larger than the ability to do the things I want to do.
Isn't it great?
People like, you know, I showed Jay the other day my notebook of businesses that I wanted to start in 2021. And it's shocking, you know.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's you know, and that's not even everything. That's just like the things I think that are achievable.
And like, make the most sense.
Yeah, make the most sense. There's a couple things I've wanted to do that I'm just not ready for on any level. It's crazy. Now, will I do those? I think there's like 12 or 13 businesses, completely new businesses. Some having to do with what I do now, some having zero to do with what I do now. I mean, absolutely nothing to do with anything you could ever imagine. And I mean, in a million years, you could ever think that I would think something like that. And you know, will I be able to do that, or should I be able to do it? I don't know. You know,
but we'll give it a shot.
But we'll give it a shot, and that's why I just got to continue to have good people surrounding me, because you know you can't start 13 new businesses without having other people in your life.
You got to be that Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, where you pick the right people for the right job, and that's how you accomplish stuff.
Well, that's what I talked about when me and you were talking. I love Elon Musk and I love Steve Jobs. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to emulate someone, I'd want to emulate Steve Jobs more than Elon Musk, because Steve Jobs was a very zen, peaceful, life first type of guy, but he was running an amazing business, whereas Elon Musk is certainly the smarter of the two and certainly the more ambitious of the two, but he admits himself his life is horrible.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy. But that being said, I think that if you can find, it's like Steve Jobs always said, you know, I don't know how to make that blue button do what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to be a blue button. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I'll hire the people to make that blue button do what I want to do.
Yep.
And so that's what I need around me, is I need to continue to buffer more and more and more people around me that believe in my vision, believe in the things that I want to do, and are willing to push.
Yeah.
You know, Jay is that guy. I mean, there's so many, you know, Jay the entertainer, you know, Jessica. I mean, the list goes on and on, you know, Steph, Beth. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of my crew that obviously buy into my philosophies. And are willing to do things that, you know, I mean, there's times where I'll have a meeting with Steph, which some of you guys don't know who she is, but she's been, you know, the wizard behind the curtain for many years. She's been with me since, you know, a long, long time. And, you know, sometimes I get off the phone with her, or she's in town because she works remotely, and she'll just be like, holy shit, you know, she's just like, oh my God, you know, because I'll just like start throwing stuff at her, you know?
And then can we do this?
And I've got her, just like so many of the people around, we're pushed to the point where there's no more there. There's no more bandwidth to go further than we are now. So now we need to add more people to expand that bandwidth to the next level.
That's right. Let me see. Neil Coleman, he threw $10, and it says, "Hey Brian and Jay, just showing some love. Brian, what would you recommend for a first monitor that is easiest to tame in your opinion?" I'm gonna go Savannah.
Yeah, if you can get a bigger a monitor like a Savannah monitor, Savannah monitors is a great option because they're although we had someone at the Reptarium today that said they had a 9-month-old Savannah that was pretty spicy. But it's rare. Most Savannah monitors tame out, very well. But you can also go with like an Ackie monitor. They're going to be a little bit more high energy, but they stay small, and you can tame them out. It does take more work, but if you don't have room and you want to have a dwarf monitor, Ackie monitors do pretty well, and they can be tamed pretty easily, to be honest with you. Just have to work them a little harder. But Savs are definitely the puppy dog of the
they're
big
so
monitor
cute.
world.
Yeah, they're like a little pug or something.
Yeah, they're very, very good.
Let Roses Burns ask, how many nymphs did your hissing roach produce? My discoids usually have 20 to 30 babies at a time. Oh my God.
I don't know the answer to that. It's strange that I don't, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't recall exactly what
I remember
happened
not too long ago, I'm trying to remember I think it was the day the vet came, the first day. And the roaches were having like babies on the wall.
Yeah.
And that was the last I remember hearing about that.
And that was the thing. I filmed it. I did a little piece on it, and then I never heard anything else about it. I kind of forgot about it. Until you just mentioned it. So I'll find that. I'll find that answer out because I don't know the answer whatsoever. I have no clue what happened there.
Yeah, I don't either.
Isn't that something? I just completely whiffed on it.
Scottish Rob says he would actually support the hell out of testing for sales. Thanks for the IBD or
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you. I think that if someone really took the initiative, and I'd love to be that person. Maybe maybe get with a lab, PCR lab that could do nidovirus testing and get it to a price point where, let's say, if I said, hey, I'm going to take 1,500 tests a year, get this down to $20 or $25. So it might cost me, a couple $1,000 a year, or whatever. I guess it'd be $20,000 a year. But you would just say, instead of selling a pie for $350, it's $375. So it's the same cost that it cost me, but you have a nido result with that. I think if someone did that, it could become an industry standard, and it would force the hand of everybody to do it, because everyone would be, well, I only want to buy from someone that has a nido-free test with that ball python. And I think that what that would do is if you started to have, like, I'm taking 1,000 or 1,500 tests a year, then Kevin McCurley takes 1,000 or 1,500 tests a year, and then Mike Wilbanks takes 2,000 tests a year, and this guy takes 2,000 tests. Also, now we bring that price maybe from $25 down to $10, right? Because a PCR, I have friends that have PCR labs, and they tell me to do like a bird sexing DNA thing. It costs them about $6, right? And then anything they charge over $6 is profit. Right. So if we did, right now there's just not enough nido tests that there's still maybe $75 or $100. But if we could get 10,000 nido tests a year or 50,000 nido tests a year, we might be able to get that price down to $10 or $15. And then it becomes just an industry standard. And hopefully the same thing could happen with IBD.
Sweet. V-Dog says Salt seems to be a cheeky monkey lately. Is she going through puberty, or is it just because she's getting bigger?
No, I think it's both, to be honest with you. I think that she's definitely starting to get to that assertive age.
She's been silly as hell, though.
Yeah, I mean, she today I had her out, and I put her in, it was an adult, I put her in an adult hand, and she freaking opened her mouth.
No.
Just wide open, just whap. And I go, let me take her back right now. Now there was no danger in them getting bitten because the way they were holding it. But she immediately. Now I will say, again, when you're training a predator, an apex predator at that, you have to assert your dominance on them. So I immediately made her stop, and then handed her to 3 or 4 other people immediately thereafter. And she was fine. A puppy dog after that. But she's definitely starting to, get to that, nowhere near mature because she's only a year and a half old, and she's obviously small. But she is definitely starting to get a little bit bigger and starting to realize she's an alligator. Yeah. And that she's trying to test those boundaries. And I saw that with RJ through his life. He would go through periods of like testing. Like, I'm
a little bit bigger now. Can I take over?
Can I fight back? And then you could get him to submit again. And then he would go a year and a half with submitting.
And that's really what happens in the wild. right?
Right, yeah. So you just have to continue to assert your dominance, and she'll be fine. She'll be good.
Carlos says, hey, Brian, would you ever consider getting an elephant trunk snake for the Reptarium?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility.
They're really cool.
Because again, I've talked about Reptarium 3.0 is going to be aquatic, all aquatic. And obviously elephant trunk snakes are primarily aquatic snakes. So it could fit into that theme. So I do like them a tremendous amount. I remember, see if you can punch up albino. There was I saw albino elephant trunk snake once. It was so dope. It was really cool. I wonder if there'll be a picture of it. Oh yeah, right down there.
This one?
Or this one? Yeah, let's go to that one because the other one's a little bit uglier.
This one?
No, that the other one. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, you can at least see a little bit of pattern on this one.
That's wild, Brian.
Yeah, so the albinos were, and there was a leucistic too. Yeah, there's right. There was a leucistic elephant trunk snake as well.
Which one's that?
I think it's no, that's a scaleless Texas rat there. But the scaleless Texas rat snake I saw, and I thought of the leucistic that I saw as well. I don't know if there's a picture of it. It doesn't matter. Point is, yeah, they're neat animals, very unusual. But again, because we're going with the aquatic theme in the basement, if all goes well with 3.0, I think it'll be that's a possibility.
Sweet. Yeah, I actually think they're really cool too. Tim says, I'm a few months away from selling rodents and snakes. Should I go and register as an LLC and business name, or should I stay under the radar for a while?
So
it's a good question.
So it depends on what your sales are, right? I think that there's a threshold, and I could be wrong because it's been so long since this happened. I think it's under $10,000 or maybe $15,000. You can just file as a sole proprietorship, and you don't have to have LLC. Or you could be under the radar. I always have paid taxes, so I don't suggest people's cheating the government. Personally, I think that that's part of what we do is we pay our taxes. That's right. But as far as the business side of things, there is a threshold. You can earn so much as a hobby without paying hardly any taxes on it at all. But you can talk to a CPA, even probably, one of the TurboTax type things probably has that answer for you, so you don't have to pay an accountant for it. But if you're getting over $15,000-$20,000, LLC is probably the way to go. Because when you get into either C Corp, S Corp, you're much bigger business
numbers
at that point. So I think we were LLC for at least 10 years before we ended up having an umbrella company that was a C Corp that ultimately switched to S Corp. So and then I think we have 8 LLCs underneath the umbrella of that corporation. So but yeah, I mean, it just depends on your sales.
Richard says he raised his yellow belly ball python pair for 3 years and he finally got a lock.
Good job. Congratulations. I hope you get some eggs. Things are moving along really quick here. We did a bunch of ultrasounding yesterday, and I was really happy. We had 40 females that were able to basically, take off of food. Now they're off of food. They're big enough. So granted, that's out of almost 200 females, so we're about 20% there.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is great. For February, it's really good because I don't think we had 20%. Until probably middle or end of March of last year. So I think we're about a month ahead of schedule. And then, of course, I would say there's another, probably another 30% that are close, where I think in the next month we'll be at probably 50% of our females in the next month off of food, and which means they're going to be producing, eggs, hopefully, most likely, let's say. And then the other, I think that the other 50%, I think we'll get most of them. I think last year we were at about 93% production, which is really high for ball pythons. I think this year there's a good chance we could be close to at least 90%, which is still astronomically good. But that's from working really hard at it.
Every day.
Yeah, that's every day working it. And I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed it last year. I've really enjoyed the process this year.
It's good meditative time, too.
Yeah, it's really good to see the progress. And when you start to see things going off of food and you start seeing follicle growths at 25, 30, 35 millimeters. I had one today that was 40 millimeters that's about to ovulate. It really makes you feel like... wow, yeah, your work is paying off.
Oh, that's awesome. Little Bogus says, thank you for bringing awareness to mental health issues seriously overlooked by society. Been dealing with them since husband went to nursing home in 2014. Still crawling my way out. You inspire me to try each day.
Well, you know, I think that mental health is something that, you know, shouldn't be, you know, be taken lightly, number one. And number two, I don't think that you're weak when you have mental health issues, whether it's chemical or situational or whatever the case may be. And I think that if we are more open about it and don't feel chastised, we feel courageous about talking about it, we can really help each other out a lot. Because, you know, sometimes especially when you're alone, I used to always tell people, I liked talking to people that had anxiety issues because that's where my mental health lies, that had gotten better, because it gave me hope, right? It was like, wait a second, they were as bad as I am, and now they're great. You know, that means I can be great, you know? Yeah. And I think that that's the problem, is that sometimes that happens. And then I think sometimes, you know, you've been dealing with this since 2014. Sometimes we swim in it, right? Yeah. And we swim in it and we don't get away from it, you know? And it's important to not get locked into that pattern of mental health struggles. And you got to work hard to not do that. And know that no matter what your mental health is, unless it's something that is really medical. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, bipolarism or schizophrenia, those types of things really are very hard to deal with without medication. But when you're talking about anxiety, depression, these types of things, I believe full and wholeheartedly that these can be conquered without medication, or the aid of medication to get you to a point where you can come off of medication.
Right, to conquer it yourself.
Right. I think that every goal of being medicated in depression and anxiety, the goal should always be to be off the medication, not to be on the medication for the rest of your life. You know, don't mask with a Band-Aid, try to cure the root of the problem. And obviously you probably have some like PTSD with your husband going into the nursing home. That's a tough thing to deal with, and you've got to get to the root of why that is causing you your issues, and how you can reframe that and realize maybe you have some guilt, maybe you have you know, abandonment, loneliness, you know, whatever it is. I talk about we call it HALT, right? You know, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are your emotions that you really want to keep an eye on, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Don't let those four things ever be an issue. If you're hungry, eat. If you're, you know, angry, try to get unangry. If you're lonely, call someone up. And if you're tired, take a nap. If you can do those things, that really strengthens your again, HALT. You know, think about that.
Yeah, it strengthens your ability to deal with mental health.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I think it's Seltzen. It says mental health. The more people that learn it's okay to not be okay, there's more acceptance. You drive that, so that in itself is a hell of a thing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Again, you know, I know some people hate me talking about it because, like, I'm here to talk about snakes.
I want to talk about Perdita.
Yeah, show Perdita.
Shut
up. But I think listen, you know, if I went through all the suffering and some of the suffering I'm still continuing to go through, and I do that without trying to help others, then I don't deserve anything, right? You know what I mean? And if I lose following, and if I lose some people that don't want to hear about it, then good riddance. I don't care about you. I don't want you as a follower. If you're gonna unfollow me, or you're gonna, you know, chastise me for being honest and trying to help others with mental health, then you're a bad person. You know,
bad purse.
Yeah, and that's all I have to say. So there you go.
Jimmy's Reptile says, "Hey Brian, just purchased my first pair of Antaracea. Is it maculosa?
Maculosa, yep, spotted, yep.
And starting to get ready for breeding. Do you have any tips for success, please?"
Well, you know, if you're in North America or Europe for that matter, say the Northern Hemisphere, breeding really is like November through March. So you're on the very, very, very tail end of that breeding season. Might be too late this year. That doesn't mean not to give it a go, but you really want to start like October, November. We've got females. Most of our females are already ovulated and are due to lay eggs over the next, you know, month and a half. But great animals, super easy to breed. Don't have too much of anything. Just feed the females a little bit more, you know, during the breeding season, and put them together. I don't cool them. I don't change humidity. I just literally increase the food on females about 50% extra food, and I put them together, and that's it. So super easy animals to breed, and you should have a lot of success. But make sure you breed them earlier in the season than later.
Let Roses Burn says, okay, no problem. Just glad I didn't ask while Lori was here.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Oh, how many nymphs did your roach produce?
Yes. It's
a good thing. Smart.
It's a good thing. Yeah. I'll get that answer for you, though. I promise I'll get that answer for you. And it's okay. Lori doesn't,
it's all fun.
Yeah, it's all in good fun. She doesn't care,
Chris says, you named her Salt like she isn't going to be salty?
Yeah, she's spicy. She's spicy.
Yeah. Yeah, she is, dude. Kellen threw $1 for love. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Sure, I didn't miss one. Red and Black Reptile says, hey, guys, Greg here. I have a ball python, a plains hog, corn, and recently got a baby children's. Okay. All shed great, but children's has trouble just on the head.
Okay. Yeah, just again, might be a little bit of a humidity issue in the children's because children's require a little bit more humidity than the other animals that you have in that group. But one of the things you can do, especially on the head, is you can put it into a plastic tub, and basically get damp paper towel and try to put the damp paper towel over the animal. So even maybe 2 or 3 layers of it. So you don't want to stuff it down to where it can't get away. It's fine if it gets out. It's completely fine. But it also might stay underneath it and moisten that up a little bit. The other thing you can do very, very gently, if it's not super stuck, is you get the rubber thumbs that are used for counting money. You can buy them for 99 cents at the office stores. And you literally just go from the nose back to the back and just gently rub. And that rubber will actually catch the skin and peel it off. Real simple. But if it's stuck too much, it can rip the skin, so don't do it
just
too
like
hard.
Your sunburn, right?
Yeah, so don't do it too hard, but it's a good technique to get shed off without having to soak it for too long. Or if you're soaking, the head is a tough spot, right? Because you can't really soak the animal in an inch of water because it'll stick its head out. Now its head's not getting moist, right? But the paper towel thing works, and the rubber thing works as well.
Maria says, sending some positivity. I can't wait to meet you guys. She's the one that lives in Alaska that works on the halibut fishing boat.
Fucking crazy. You showed me some pictures.
Yeah, dude. Dude, wherever she's at looks gorgeous, dude.
She's crazy.
So pretty.
That chick is out of her mind.
Yeah, she's nuts.
She's nuts, man. She's going to die one day.
You're going to die out there on the ship.
Get out that fucking cold suit or whatever you got going on.
I cannot believe. Yeah, you got strength.
I seriously, as much as I would. I don't even know.
We're making him do it.
I would like to try to do it.
That's all you got to do. To try.
Yeah, but I just would, as long as I would know that the boat would turn around if I needed it to.
Yeah, not like it's nope, we got 8 hours of fishing to do, bud.
We're our 4 days.
Yeah, because
we'll be back on Tuesday.
Because honestly, I'm good too.
I'd be I would literally be swimming home if I do that. But no, seriously, it would be that would be a dream. And listen, fishing in Alaska. I'm not a fishing guy, but really only fished a couple times in my life. But we Lori and I have talked a lot about this summer. I want to fish some. Or at least try to fish. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how you fish. But it does seem very relaxing. And I'm sure that she doesn't do it relaxing because she's out in the Bering Sea catching commercial fish.
Yeah. That's totally different than river fishing.
Yeah, I just want to float around in my pontoon, catching a couple perch.
You could not, dude. Could you imagine you was trying to wait for a fish? You're like, what the fuck's taking so long in there, bro? Get out.
But I think that if I go out on the lake that we're going to be on and chill out there regularly,
you gotta
that'll get me over my fear of being around water and stuff like that. So
smart.
Granted, there's no waves on the.
There ain't no fucking Loch Ness monster in that
tiny lake, But yeah, it'll at least prepare me for not freaking out.
Little Bogus says, "Can I buy an hour with Lori? I'll bring the wine. I'll hand my boys off to you for that hour. Does that sound good?"
It's
a girl.
Okay, yeah. Say,
you're like, oh, yo, bro, you trying to throw hands?
Yeah, like, whoa, wait a second here, man.
How much you gonna pay?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about money here. Yeah. An hour.
An hour?
Shit, I haven't had an hour with her.
Shit. Facts. Ooh, how much are you gonna have to pay?
Yeah, but no, that's up to Lori, man. She's a hard bargainer, man. Yeah, when it comes to chilling.
Lori tours are $3,000.
Yeah, wine does help, man. But it costs $100K to ship a fucking coloring book, man.
What do you think?
You can only imagine what it costs for Lori's time. When I'm with her for 10 minutes, I'm feeling lucky.
I'm handing her $100 bills. Thanks for sticking around, sweetheart.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with me, baby.
Scottish Rob said, for testing, you might want to reach out to Research Associates Laboratory Distillery in Texas.
Yeah.
Chad Little there is a BOA guy, did the IBD testing. Highly recommend.
Nice. I would love that. Send me an email, please, and I will reach out to them and see. I'm assuming they're a PCR lab, and I don't know a whole lot about the IBD testing because, again, I haven't had that issue, but NITO I know a little bit about, and maybe they can be working with the NITO as well, and I'd love to work something out. I really would. I think that we need, as an industry, to push past this and to stop keeping it a dirty secret.
Yeah.
Because if people come out clean with it, we can eradicate it, instead of coughing. Listen, I can imagine you went through a lot of suffering with that IBD, emotionally, mentally, waiting for those tests to come back, all those types of things. If we can eradicate that from the industry, that would be amazing.
No one else has to deal with that,
and,
right?
And it's not that costly to do it. You know what I mean? It's like it's something that is a relatively inexpensive thing that we could do, and we can set an industry standard. And even when we go back to legislation, when we start showing people that we're proactive as an industry on viruses, right? The pathogens, that's probably going to help us, right?
Yeah.
It's much like, I didn't tell you just, Jay, but, it's like, obviously with all the craziness that has gone on, we're about to apply to become ZAA accredited at the Reptarium.
What does that mean?
So there's AZA and then there's ZAA, right?
Wow,
AZA is American Zoological Association, and then ZAA is
Zoological Association of America.
Exactly.
No, it's not, for real. That's so stupid.
But the one AZA is what big zoos are, and a lot of big zoos are almost wanting to pull out of AZA because they become such control freaks.
Yeah.
That number one, they would never allow anyone to touch an animal. Even keepers can't touch animals in AZA these days. Wow. And then of course they have complete control over your animal stock. So they could say, hey, guess what? Salt needs to go to this other facility tomorrow.
Yep. And
you would have to do that to stay in accreditation. ZAA is not that way. It's more for small zoos like us.
And what's the benefit?
Well, you're accredited.
Oh, cool.
You're accredited. Cool. So, essentially it just gives you an accreditation that gives you kind of that, like, hey, guess what? I'm a,
actual zoo,
I'm a AAA Better Business Bureau, whatever,
good.
type
cool.
of thing.
That's so dope, dude.
So we're applying for that. I mean, it could take several months before we get the inspections and all that stuff. But yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but I think it's money well spent. Eric
says, what kind of milk snakes will you be breeding this year?
Quite a few, obviously Pueblans, Sinaloans, Nelsons, Hondurans, black milks, hopefully. Of course, you've got a lot of other land propeltis like the Therais and Nuevo Leon, or in Mex-Max and all kinds of other different, odds and ends. So, Annulata, stuff like that. So quite a few milk snakes, yeah.
That's it for Supers, my boy.
Oh my gosh, you guys did good for Super Chats
always
today. I mean, you guys did really good. Let's see what time it is. We've got a little bit more time, so I'll chit chat for a little bit here. Unless you guys don't care about me and you want me to go away.
No, I'm sure they don't care.
So what was the other topic? So on the reptile, we talked about the scaleless ball python thing.
We were going to talk about bands.
We're going to talk about obviously just what we can do as an industry. I mean, obviously we have Kev McCurley over at Nerd is really on fire right now. When it comes to this, I mean, the one thing I've seen with him is when he gets like onto a topic, he's on a topic, right? And he's really pushing. So obviously we're going to push everyone to usarc.org. Show them support. It's relatively cheap to be a member there. Also, you can make donations, but also just follow. Even if you can't afford to make donations, you can follow their alerts.
Do they have when you join their mailing list? Do they send you when they get a new alert?
Yeah, they'll send you the alert.
Because that's important. Because, like you said before, you want it to die in committee, so you want to make sure you get that email as soon as possible and start talking to your representatives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sooner you can talk to people, the better. The prospects of legislation passing. And like I said, the thing we have to remember is that, for whatever reason, and I always try to wrap my head around this, I really do, because I'm a pragmatic person. And I really think that, I know this is going to sound really strange to say this, so bear with me as I say this. I think the people from PETA and me and people like me that are really devout animal lovers are not really that different. Right? And I know people are going to be, what? Did Brian just say PETA's not that different than him? Don't take me out of context when I say that. What I'm saying is that they're animal lovers. I'm an animal lover. We just disagree on what that means.
Exactly.
The
definition.
We both want what's best for that animal. They think what's best for that animal is to not be in a cage or a habitat or an enclosure or whatever you want to call it. I think that education through exposure with zoos and breeding and stuff like that is exactly what that animal needs in order to get people to have a longer life of that, because we know that there's less and less wild out there, right? You know,
and they'll continue to
and
be
there'll
less.
be continue to be less and less wild out there. And we have to get people like, listen, I've said that the single worst thing that could have ever happened to orca conservation is blackfish, right? Because blackfish pushed SeaWorld to stop keeping orcas once they die, right? So they're never going to bring new orcas in. The orcas that are there will eventually die over the next 10 or 15 years. Guarantee you 30 years from now, nobody is going to know what an orca is. And no one's going to care what an orca is in the wild, right? I'm not going to say nobody, but very few people. Do you know how many marine biologists have dedicated their life to marine conservation because they went to SeaWorld and saw a Shamu show?
Yep.
Now, I will say, I'll go on record, I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of primates in captivity, and I'm not a big fan of porpoises in captivity. I think these are very smart. I don't know that they should be. But you have, on the other side, you have to say, if that one orca that's in SeaWorld saves 10,000 wild orcas, it might be okay. You know what I mean? And I know that's a very, very difficult thing to wrap your head around. And it's a very difficult thing to say without somebody taking out of context and making you into an evil person. But so my point is that for whatever reason, the PETAs, the defenders.orgs, the HSUSs, they really don't want people to keep animals at all. And by the way, everyone knows this about PETA, but most people don't realize this about HSUS, which is the Humane Society of the United States, which don't mistake your Humane Society, local Humane Society, with the Humane Society of the United States, because they're two completely different organizations. I support local Humane Societies 1,000%. HSUS is not a local Humane Society. As a matter of fact, very, very little of their budget, which are hundreds of millions of dollars, by the way, that goes into the HSUS, goes to the local Humane Society. I think it's under 3% of their budget goes to actual Humane Societies. 97% goes up to either salaries or lobbying to get laws passed so people can't keep animals. So I often wonder, why is that? Why is their agenda to stop people from keeping animals? And like I was about to say, is that there's been on record that they don't even want people to keep dogs and cats. They don't want people to keep pets, period. They think even your backyard is a cage, and that it's not right for the animals. And I guess I just don't get it. I seriously believe that most of the people in PETA in HSUS, and you name the anti-pet movement people, I think most of them at one point were just like me. They just loved animals. And then somehow they became radicalized. Yep,
I agree.
And
watch too many YouTube videos or something.
Whatever it is. And so my point is that I don't look at them as horrible people and want them to die. I look at them as just
misguided.
Yeah, misguided and radicalized, right?
Yeah.
And so don't you think for a second that these laws that are being proposed now have anything to do with what they're being proposed as, right? We need to protect from invasiveness. We need to protect from pathogens for potential future COVID pandemics. And we have to, that's nothing to do with what's being proposed. It has to do with lobbying senators and congressmen to stop people from keeping reptiles or keeping birds or keeping fish or keeping anything. Right? Yeah. And that's the truth. But they realize that if they come out and say, we just don't want people to keep reptiles, that's not passing.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to hide it.
You have to hide it in legislation. And that's really where we're at with the legislation. And we have to be very, very careful. And right now, even more so than ever, we have to be careful because, of course, how sensitive. Listen, we've all went through a year of repression around the world. So it's pretty easy to sell people on the fact that, do you ever want to go through that again? If you don't, you better stop reptiles, or you better stop this, or you better stop that, or it's going to happen again. And people are like, F that. I don't want that to happen again. Pass that law against this, right? So right now they're pulling on the kind of heartstrings of people that are just scared and don't want to, go through this again. And understandably, obviously no one wants to go through this again. So they're like Jay said, it's a Trojan horse right now, and we have to be very careful because this onslaught is more than ever. And then you have, this is what I don't get, like whether it's the FWC in Florida or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, like when did we become their adversary? Like, you know what I mean? Like why do so someone called the animal control on us. This will be in a vlog here coming up soon. Someone called the animal control on us. Yesterday because of our sloth. And they said that we weren't caring for our sloth properly. Animal control came in. We had a great time. They took selfies with the sloth, looked around. They fed Nova. They wanted to feed the alligators. Yeah. That's the way it should be, right? They're there to protect animals' welfare, and when they get a call, they have to come out and see. They came in and go, oh my God, this is a beautiful setup. He's in great shape. You have all of your veterinary, paperwork. You have your USDA paperwork. And even when we went through the USDA protocol, those people worked with us like great. I mean, they weren't our adversaries. They were helping us to get the permits we needed. But somehow law enforcement in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the FWC and some other organizations like that have decided that we're the enemy. It's almost like they need job justification.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of like me and Noah were talking about this with like police officers. Right. And there that idea of like protect and serve, but it's not exactly just that. It's we need to make money to pay for us to have police officers.
Well, there's got to be job justification. Yeah, if we don't have criminals, we don't need cops. You know, if we don't have criminals, we don't.
If there's no crime, make crime.
Yeah, if there's no crime, we in wildlife we don't have wildlife agents. But I just don't see it that way. Like I see it as in like I want to be friends with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I want to be friends with the FWC. I want to be friends with the animal control like we were yesterday. Yeah. Like I'm there to help you. Like I want the same thing as you. I don't want black market. I don't want smuggling. I don't want animals in harm. But yet somehow there's been this corruption where it's like got to be us against them. And right now the FWC, and I'm not in Florida and I don't know anyone in the FWC. I just see what I see with laws and stuff like that, and I see what they say. And when they come out with the statement saying if it can breed in Florida, we don't want it to be legal to keep, that's a scary statement to me.
Yeah.
It's a scary statement that someone that should be regulating and working with not only the reptile hobby, but every animal hobby out there to make sure that they're performing properly is now making every one of those people an enemy. And I don't think that those organizations were built to be that. I think they were built to work with. I mean, if you think about like the Cattlemen's Association or something like that, when you get the USDA and the Cattlemen's Association, they work together to have guidelines and regulation that makes sense for both of them, right? Yep. To keep the cattle's good, to keep human health good, to make sure things are being done right. Do they probably have opposing points of view at times? Sure, I'm sure they do. But they've got to work in unison in order to make this all work. So why are we the enemy? I mean, when I see, and maybe I'm foolish, and I've been in the reptile business for 33 years. I would think I know a lot about reptiles, and not just reptiles, but the hobby itself. When I hear that there's $1 billion a year in black market in reptiles, my answer or my question is where? I don't know of any of it. I mean, I'm sure there's some. I hear rumors of this or this happening or something. But in the United States, I haven't been offered an illegal animal in a long time. I mean, 20 years I haven't been offered an illegal animal, or however many years it's been. But it very rarely in my entire career happened where someone would offer me something illegal. So if there's $1 billion a year worth of black market in the reptile, how do I not know about it? Whether I want to be involved or not, which of course I would not want to be involved in it, but how do I not know about that market? Don't you think I would know? Don't you think that I would hear?
Oh, for sure.
And so that's what makes me really confused. Like, why do we have to criminalize the reptile hobby, and in this case, try to outlaw the reptile hobby? Because aren't we isn't my yearly permit paying for your job? Isn't my inspection fee if I'm exporting an animal paying for your job? Isn't all these things, like, is your job really there just to try to bust me? Is your job there to try to make me into a criminal or anyone into a criminal for that matter. Like, it just seems wrong to me. I just think it shouldn't be that way. We should work together because we have the same
goal. We want animals to be treated well.
Right, exactly. And so the anti-animal legislation is no different than the other law enforcement, where it's like we become enemies. Which if I wasn't leading the pack, I would do everything in my power to reverse that. But I just don't think that that's possible. I think politically it's just like they look at us like we're bad, and then we look at them as they're treating us wrong, and then you have a really bad relationship. And that's no different than I guess, some of the law enforcement. Right?
Yeah, that's literally exactly what it seems like, right?
I mean, listen, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, today Jade, the entertainer, got pulled over for not having a fucking blinker changing lanes.
In a snowstorm,
yeah,
like no one's probably around.
Do you think a white guy would have got pulled over?
And even if I did, I wouldn't have got a ticket.
No, you wouldn't have got pulled over, man. Come on, and that's wrong, man. I'm sorry, that's wrong. That's fundamentally wrong. And it's the same thing if like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife looks at me as a criminal. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, really, like I do everything by the book, and I know they would love nothing more than to find one mistake
something
I
to
made,
put you away.
And they would come at me with guns blazing, and they would make me an example as, look at this black market, smuggler, blah 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 blah. Now, and that's a shame, because they shouldn't. They should look at it and go, that's how all the people should be treating this. Making sure that all your paperwork is done, making sure all of your, I have a vet kid, and I got this and I got that. You know what I mean? It's like
you should give people the accolades for being good just as much as for being bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you just said, because you do everything by the book, they should be like, hey, this is exemplary.
Yeah.
Emulate what this guy's doing.
Yeah. If you
not like,
and that's what
let's get him.
And that's what the animal control guy came in yesterday and said. He goes, oh, we knew you would have all your paperwork.
Yeah.
He's like, we had no doubt you were going to have everything in place.
That guy was so funny.
Yeah, he was
man.
literally like, I'll be honest with you, I was just happy to see the call come in so I could come and hang out.
He goes, because it was before you got here, and he's like, I've come here like 6-7 times, bro. I love this place. And he's like, honestly, this isn't even my jurisdiction. I heard there's a sloth. I was like, I gotta go take pictures.
Yeah, I gotta
with
go
it.
take a sloth.
Dude, I love you, man.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be, right? I mean, that's the way.
Check on it because it's important.
Yeah, it's important. If we had a sloth and we weren't caring for it, obviously that's a huge problem. And again, they popped in without any notice, and they came in and the sloth in a huge enclosure that's being.
My house.
I mean, the thing's laying on its fucking back, getting fed grapes and stuff like that, and
that's the thing, right? With the whole thing, with even like you were saying with PETA and stuff, is that I get what they're trying to say, right?
Yes.
But it's unrealistic. We don't live in a world where tigers can run around freely because people have kids, and that will there's just no way for giant predators and humans to be completely correlated in wild.
I guess it goes back to that saying, right? Like, don't punish the masses for the errors of a few.
Exactly.
There are definitely people that keep tigers terrible. Does that mean no one should keep tigers?
No, they're gonna be gone in the wild, no matter what. That's that's gonna happen.
Well, especially tigers and lions and the big cats and stuff like that.
Wolves, all that stuff.
A lot of these animals are close to being, functionally extinct.
And the only reason we're keeping them around is because people love them.
Yeah.
And how does that happen? Because of a zoo, because of a person that any type of experience where a human can get up close and personal to an animal. That's why those animals are even still here.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I mean, I think that we're all on the same page. We just
passionate,
have unbelievably differing opinions, and I know that that's not necessarily a popular stance. I think when I say that about PETA or any of these things, people are a little bit surprised that I somehow have some admiration for them, because I just don't think they're terrible people. I just think that they're misguided people.
Yeah,
and maybe they feel exactly the same about me. Maybe they're like, that Brian, he's an animal lover. We just don't agree with what he believes in. And if that's the case, then maybe there is a common ground. But if we think they are like, I'd like to burn them at the stake, and they think they'd like to burn me at the stake, we're never getting anywhere. Yeah. We're never going anywhere. So I would, to me, I'd like to find the common ground.
I agree. Do you want to have the last couple super chats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sleeping Lady Reptile says, much love and support from Arkansas again. Sorry I missed the live.
No problem. Well, I'm glad. And
you didn't miss all of it.
Yeah, you're here for the end. So there you go.
Justin Boyd said, are you going to have a rainbow boa and Woma python babies?
I feel confident on both.
Ooh.
Not positive, but confident. We have a one Woma, potentially a second one that's gearing up for ovulation. And we're just starting to breed the rainbow bows tomorrow. So, not tomorrow. No, Monday. I'm sorry. I forgot what day it was. Monday, they start going together.
That'd be a cool piece.
We'll
film that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Wild Boy Dev, our boy, he says the lack of knowledge builds fear. So true.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You know, the opposite of fear is knowledge.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't fear respect.
Don't fear respect, you bastards.
Yes.
That's what I should have said. You bastards.
Oh, you bastards. Skix Prince?
Skix Prince.
It's a hard one. Sorry, came in late, but did we already talk about what we can do to help stop these laws?
We did, but I'll really quickly
recap.
You can go to us.org and you can follow their action.
USARG,
yeah. What did I say?
You just said us.org.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, hey, you skipped to the end, bro.
Yeah, it's my dyslexia.
I'll show you guys.
usarc.org, and just follow their alerts. You know, if you go on there, they literally give you a template of what you can do for every single one of these things. They even have a template email.
Yeah.
That you can just personalize, say this. My name is Brian, and then you could do a couple things, or you can do your own. You know, but use that template to understand as a guide, and they really walk you through it very simply. So that's the best thing you can do. Support USARC.
Be cordial.
Be cordial.
Be professional.
Nice. You know, these Congress people, they're not the devil. They're just they're misguided too. You know, I mean, they've got money getting thrown at them, and they're saying, hey, listen, you know, do you think that the Congress? You know, this is the thing. Do you think the congressman in Lansing, Michigan, number one, is watching a YouTube video? No. He's not watching me on YouTube and saying there needs to be legislation because of Brian or because of anybody, right? That's not how laws work. Number two, they don't know anything about reptiles. They really, I mean, come on. I mean, unless their friends or family do, they don't know anything about reptiles. And so when some lobby group comes and throws a bunch of money at their campaign, they get elected, they now have to return the favor to that lobby group, HSUS, PETA, whatever the case is, and they have to then go, well, you know, this is the agenda. These guys gave me $100,000. Now I have to propose legislation. They may not even be passionate about that legislation they're proposing.
They just have to do it.
They just have to do it because that's the way the system works. Does it suck? Yes, it does. Is there occasionally somebody that is really passionate about it? Like, the guy, what was it? Senator, gosh darn, I can't remember if it was Kennedy or whatever it was, down in Florida, who was passing legislation on the Lacey Act and really pushing hard because of the Burmese down in the Everglades. That guy was like, had a personal vendetta. Like he was like, that was his champion legislation to make a name for himself. I'm personally going to do this, and but most of the time it's not the case. Most of the time they're just writing legislation because of a lobby group told them to write legislation, favor for a favor, and when it dies, they go, well, we tried, and they move on with their life. They could care less either way.
That's so true. Okay, cool. So that's that. Taylor Jordan says, love your content, Brian, and love your photography, Jay.
Thank you. Well, how do you know it's not my photography?
Yeah, Brian takes them all.
Yeah, have you ever looked at my photography?
It's really good.
It's really. I tell you what, if you like Snoopy, you'll love my photography.
You love my stuff.
Because I tell you what, I take out my
Snoopy cam.
My Snoopy cam.
Starts taking shots.
No, man, you see the Polaroids I take.
Dude, I wish. I used to have a Polaroid. That was my first camera.
It's good, man. You catch some orbs in that shit.
Catch some orbs, dude, for sure. Orbs. Yeah, for sure, bro. Simple Man threw $10. It looks like there's no super chat. I'll see if I see one down below. But
Simple Man, what's up, man?
We love you.
We love you, man. You've been crushing us, man. We appreciate you.
Michael says, any luck breeding Ivy? That's a weird one because we haven't bred her.
Yeah, not yet. We've been trying, but no hookups yet. Which is a little bit of a bummer. I thought we'd get there, but I've always said it doesn't matter either way. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not like sad about it, but yeah, hopefully we'll get her bred at some point.
Mike the jeweler guy.
Mike's in the house. Mikey, my Mikey
boy. He said, of course your Congress Senate isn't watching a podcast. They're too busy counting their stacks of bribes. Oh, I mean lobby money. Yeah. Hope you guys are doing well today.
No, he's not far off. Seriously,
it's exactly what it is.
It's seriously true. I mean, it
should be against the law to do that shit anyway.
Yeah, I mean the special interest has become really a problem has been
it's
for
legal
many
corruption,
years.
for
Yeah,
real.
it's just legal. You can pay for anything, right? In that world, and it's every now and then they try to do like reform on special interest reform and lobbyist reform, and it's hard because these people. I mean, listen, especially when you're in the U.S. Senate and government, the federal. They're rich beyond belief, not because of what they're making as their job, but because of all the extra stuff that they get because of that,
Yeah.
And it's really hard to it's unfortunate that, it's like they say, Washington is drunk with power, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you become a senator or a congressman, a senator probably even more so than a congressman, because there's obviously far fewer senators. You are one of, 100 people in the world that has that title, and you don't want to lose it, and and I think that's why personally, not to get into a big long political thing, but I think there should be term limits in the Senate and House.
Yep.
There should be no reason that
someone's
no matter how much you
years.
like. Listen, I love Bernie Sanders, but he shouldn't be in office for 50 years.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Although, and he's probably one of the best examples of someone that has stuck to their guns and not taken lobbying money and not taking special interests and done the same thing for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Most of them are not that way. Bernie seems to have morals, whether you agree or disagree with his policies, completely different. That I don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
discussion.
that has nothing to do with it.
I just think that from a moral standpoint, not
seems like a real person.
Yeah, not to mention his mittens are fucking on
fire,
point.
Dude.
They're on point, man.
You think creating jobs? He gave that lady fucking millions of dollars that made those gloves, bro. Because did you hear that? Her Gmail was crashing for days, dude.
But I heard that, it's so funny. She said that she's like a teacher or something like that. And she said she was too busy to do. She's like, I'm just too busy to
dude.
do.
And us, dude. We'd be like, capitalize. Let's find a way to make these in China.
BernieSandersGlove.org.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all right, we're gonna hire some. Get that sweatshop up.
Yeah, get it up and running. We got this trend's gonna last a couple days.
Exactly. We gotta get those kids, those 13-year-olds, get them sewing.
Get them sewing quick.
Get them sewing quick.
If they poke their fingers, give them a pair of gloves.
Exactly. Yeah. Nope. They ain't got no lunch breaks.
Yeah, lunch.
When I was a kid, I didn't have lunch.
Jake says,
Keep working.
Hey, Brian, sorry I missed the last few shows. Oh, dude, I don't forgive you.
No.
It says, if you guys need a hand with the VIP stuff, I'll be glad to lend a hand.
Thanks, bro.
I appreciate
it. I don't know what you can help with, but
if we need your help, we'll ask you.
I'd love to hear what you think you can help us with, because we can always use help.
Yeah,
right? I'm always.
You know how to juggle?
Yeah. Can you ride a unicycle by any chance?
If you can ride a unicycle, we got a position for you.
Yeah, no, but we always need help. Trust me, I'm a guy that. I need more.
I got
help
something you could do for me.
I got something. I guarantee you, I got something for you to do. I never turn down help, so thank you so much, Shake.
That's it, brother.
All right, man. Well, that was really cool, guys. I appreciate it. I hope that you guys learned a little bit about legislation. I think, I'm glad I got the chance to share the scaleless thing with you guys. Don't forget the coloring books. It's only $100,000 worth of shipping if you're in the UK, and then you're in good shape. What's $100K between friends?
Yeah, it's the UK, dude.
It's the
a
UK.
couple hundred more.
You guys had. Gosh, what's the
That's the conversion rate.
Yeah,
that's $30.
Yeah, it's like $30.
So stop bitching.
Yeah, exactly. 30 pence.
Hell yeah.
30p. But no, thank you guys. Seriously, you guys are awesome. I love you guys so much. You support me on everything I do, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, obviously. So I can't thank you enough for it. VIP, we'll keep you updated on that whole situation. We'll keep you updated on a couple things. I think we're gonna have Bella merch launch this week. I hope
you better bring in a shirt tomorrow.
I hope I'll launch it this week, and then we got some other stuff that we're gonna announce here relatively soon that are gonna be exciting. And I hope that it'll inspire you guys to keep moving forward with your dreams, because that's really all I really care about, is to show you that if you follow through things, you can do a lot of things in your life. And even if you're dealing with mental anxiety or depression or whatever the case is,
that's right,
you can still push forward and you can get through it. So that's all I care about. But thank you guys so much. Love you so much. And I guess that's it. I'll see you on Wednesday in checking in. See you guys. Have a good night.
That was good. That was good, bruv.
Yes, not the vibe.